Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about What If Naruto x Akeno Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Night. The stars shine, the moon was full as the night sky illuminated the earth. Normally it was show of a beautiful array of constellations/show. Unfortunately, the beautiful night that most would enjoy is nothing more than help illuminate the ground as the sounds of battle cries and screams are heard throughout the land. In one valley, the sounds of fighting was heard everywhere with the clashing of swords, shields, and crying pain. The battle was coming from three separate armies from three separate groups of supernatural groups. One group was that of light that came from heaven, led by the biblical god, the angels. The second force came from the underworld, led by the four great Satans, the devils. Finally, the third group, that was consisted of fallen ones, led by the strongest of all fallen ones, Azazel, the fallen angels. The angels originated from heaven, who are powerful beings that serve the biblical God and have the power to inflict pain upon devils/demons due to their light-based powers. However, as powerful as they are pure beings that follow the ways of the biblical God has set. The devils come from the underworld, where they were led by the four great Satans, Lucifer, Leviathan, Beelzebub, Asmodeus. They are strong since they use multiple dark magic, such as ice, fire, etc. Lastly, fallen angels are angels that have fallen from the grace of God, due to having impure thoughts that divert them from the teachings of the God in the Bible. They call themselves the Grigori group. They look like angels, except their wings are black and have no halos above their heads. As the battle continued on, in the center of the battlefield a sudden explosion of such power suddenly appeared, pushing all three sides back a bit. The ones that were in the center of the explosion were killed, while those that were knocked back wondered on what it was. It was suddenly one of the fallen angels yelled out loud while pointing his weapon into the sky, getting all those close to the person to look up and pay attention. Suddenly, a sapphire flame, with glittering red sparks coming from the end of its tips, came down on the battlefield by the light of the moon. The flame soon disappeared as it slowed down to reveal an armor body with four pairs of azure, silver angel-like wings that looked like it's made of steel. The body was armored in a unique way, like a knight of Middle Ages, but was designed differently, with the body being white. The chest plate was black as night with a red and blue outlines in several parts. His right arm held an Excalibur with its sheath behind the back. On the waist there were two small short swords like daggers with their sheaths that stopped mid-thigh. X-20A Strike Freedom, Gundam Seed but more Middle Age. When each members of the armies saw the suit of armor fly down from them, the commanding leaders knew who it was. "It's the Blue Knight," one devil said. With the arrival of the Blue Knight, several of them stopped fighting with each other, where they turned their attention to the newcomer. To the three factions, the Knight is considered to be an enemy. For the devils and fallen angels, the Knight has slain several of their promising and prodigy members. The angels needed to kill the Knight because, even though the Knight fought against devils and fallen angels, the Knight also defeated several members of the elite Seraph, recently Michael. The armies quickly engaged on the Knight, but the Knight moved so fast that many didn't see where it flew. The Knight flew with incredible speed and agility that many believed it was teleportation of some kind. The Knight quickly flew into the center of the battle, where he started to shoot energy blasts of holy and demonic powers on all. The accuracy was incredible that the Knight shot only at the arms, legs, wings, and non-vital areas where it won't cause death. In one point, it fired several shots of magical beams at everyone, taking them out of the battle. It was around this time that the current commanders of battle came towards the Knight. The Knight saw this and flew into the sky, where the commanders flew up as well. The battle of the three versus the Knight was intense. The commanders of the angel and fallen angels have 5 pairs of wings, while the devil was known to be at the same level. The Knight fought each three with incredible skill and strength that many down at the battlefield actually stopped to see the battle. Through great skill and determination, the Knight sliced right through the fallen angel commander in half with its Excalibur, impaling the devil with the same sword while fighting the angel a bit more before they fired upon each other, where the Knight blasted through with a second shot that continued on and hit the angel's right arm and 2 wings, while the second shot hit the left leg and 2 lower wings. With the final commander taken out, the second in command saw that Knight was ready to continue fighting as it came down on them. With this, they ordered each of their forces to retreat since their main commanders were defeated and the battle became unfavorable to them, as well as to report the incident to their higher command. Most retreated while others stayed in hopes to turn the battle in their favor, devils and fallen angels, but were quickly silenced by the Blue Knight. With the forces temporarily withdrawn from the battlefield, the Blue Knight quickly flew into the full moon and disappeared. The Blue Knight, or the Knight of Life and Death, is an unknown, legendary warrior in the earth, as the Knight appeared nearly 10 years ago. None of the three factions doesn't know on who the knight really is, since the aura of the knight always disappeared like the shadows and would only appear when the three forces would battle each other near land that were inhabited by humans, such as kingdoms or small villages. During those times, the knight would enter in the middle of the battlefield and fight everyone that it can possibly can. The three factions already knew that the knight's power was that of a sacred gear, but they haven't got a clue on where it appeared or who created, since God, himself, never created such a thing. They believed it was created by something else, or a longevity that was hidden in the world. The only thing that was certain was that the Blue Knight was danger to the three factions, since it attacked anyone and barely left anyone alive, except the angels, but they received serious injuries. 1 year later. It was the final battle, as the armies of heaven, Underworld and Grigori group fought in a tremendous battle on the earth, so tremendous that any living human that was nearby would be scorched alive from the holy/demonic aura clashing at each other for 3 days straight. As the battle continued on, in the middle of the rampage a large, ring-like, circle was occupied by only 10 beings. The 10 beings that were fighting each other were the 5 top leaders in Grigori, the 4 great Satans, and the biblical god of Christianity. The fighting between the leaders were so powerful that many couldn't get near, that only their top generals or right-handed men were able to get in. But as the battle continued to go on with the deaths of many brave warriors, the battle changed dramatically, as out of nowhere the three factions were completely struck by a powerful blast that created a path. It was then that those that paid attention saw the Blue Knight appeared again. Those that saw it attack in all directions but weren't able to hit the knight, since the way it flew was made it impossible. The knight flew directly at the center of the battlefield where God and the Satans were fighting with each other. Knight brought its arms up in an X shape where a barrier shield appeared and collided into the wall of powers to break through. Once in, he saw the deities and began its assault on each one of them. The 4 great Satans saw who it was where they heard on the Blue Knight. They knew if the knight didn't get itself involved in several past battle, they would have gotten an upper hand on the war. They knew that the knight had to die for ruining many of their plans. The fallen angels saw the knight, and had similar thoughts where they too had to kill the Blue Knight. The biblical God, who was 3 times taller than any man, knew the knight from the reports from his subordinates, including Michael, that he was responsible for injuring his angels in battle, not killing any of them. Like the Satans, the knight stopped several advances in the past that it caused them to advance their attacks on the devils and fallen angels. The battle continued on as the forces of each factions attacked each other, including the Blue Knight. In the battle, the knight had taken down the top commanders of each group, including Michael, but not without sustaining severe injuries. Several armor plates were destroyed and blood coming out from inside the armor. But even with great pain and lack of energy, the knight continued to fight until only the knight, the 4 great Satans, and God were the only ones to be able to keep fighting. It was around this time that God and the Satans decided to make their final attack on each other, but stopped when they saw the Blue Knight sudden become golden. The next thing that happened was only the top commanders, which were still alive. See what happened next. The knight new transformed state quickly moved with such speed that no one saw what happened until it was too late. In this one move, the knight flew behind 2 of the great Satans and pierced their hearts with its bare fists, no gauntlet real skin, killing them while their black blood splashed around. Everyone was shocked on what just happened that the other 2 Satans didn't know on what happened until it was too late. The knight pulled out its hands from the Satan's body and quickly moved and fired several energy shots at everyone, forcing them to scatter. It was then that the last 2 Satans were caught in surprise as the knight drew out its Excalibur and sliced, then plunged deeply into the last 2, killing them while the black blood from them splashed all over the knight. God and the fallen angels couldn't believe on what just happened. They of course figured out that this power must be a special God-killing mode. In less than a minute, the knight killed the Satans but suddenly dropped to the ground near the leader of the down-fallen angel, Azazel. The armor of the knight has all but disappeared, as the only thing left was the face mask. The knight was completely weakened that it couldn't move at all. The biblical God was the only one left to be able to move. He walked, with a sword in hand, with an ominous present in front of Azazel and the knight. The god approached them as Azazel looked up at his former leader. "Ha ha, I guess this is it for me, huh?" Azazel said with a grin on his face. "You have betrayed the path of light with your desires and rebellious actions. I'm sorry to say that it is time that you pay for your sinful ways," God said. Before I go, you mind if you show me on who the Blue Knight really is, as I'm just curious as you are," Azazel requested. God didn't acknowledge Azazel, but was curious to know on who the knight is. The Almighty God walked and lifted the person by their neck with his left hand. God pulled and threw the knight's armor mask away to reveal the person's face. God and Azazel looked to see that it was a young boy in their late teens to early 20s with blonde spiky hair. The boy had a face that could attract many young women to him. God examined the boy to see on what this boy powers really is but couldn't find an answer since he can sense a sacred gear but wasn't able to tell on how it was created or where it originated but could feel a familiarity that he couldn't put. Azazel looked at the young boy and could see that he was out cold, wasn't able to defend himself. As he stared he heard God speak up. Strange, I can sense both light and darkness in his soul, yet can't sense any evil or good in him. But in any case, he must be punished for his sins, God said. Oh, and what sins would that be? He killed many devils and fallen angels while leaving only injured angels to you. The way he fought, you should be thanking him for killing your greatest enemies. Azazel panted out on what he said. He still sinned by hurting my loyal ones and stirring people away from my lessons of purity. I will assure that, like you, he will not find peace. Just like Adam and Eve, he will face my wrath for all the sins he has placed upon himself. Where God has his sword, in his right hand, ready to pierce through the young man's heart. I guess this is it, Azazel thought as he closed his eyes to not see the death of the young boy and waited for his turn. The next sound that he heard was a piercing and splashing sound. Azazel sighed as he opened his eyes, to see God one more time. He thought he should go out with at least one more act of rebellion, not matter how silly it is, which is why he was ready to spit on God's face. However, when he opened his eyes, he was not prepared on seeing this scene. Azazel looked stunned at the unbelievable scene in front of him. Michael and the other seraph angels were finally able to come out of being unconsciousness to see on what happening. It was there in their own horror and disbelief on the scene in front of them. The high-ranking devils that were there also, that weren't killed by the night, finally regained consciousness. God had his sword ready to strike as he brought the young boy in front of his face that held an angry yet saddened face on him. He held the boy straight as he got his large sword ready in one motion. It was here that he began his thrust to only stop right before the tip of blade could touch the boy's chest since he felt something was wrong. He looked down to see the boy, in his right hand, holding a golden dark sword with a similar aura that killed the Satans. However, along the blade had the blood of the 4 great Satans covered the blade as it pierced God's heart. In that moment, God fell on one knee then on both where he let go of the boy, who regained consciousness just in time to put all his strength to create the golden/dark sword that killed the Satans along with their blood to pierce God's heart. God's grip of the boy loosened up as he fell on top of him as well as letting go of his sword. Everyone then heard whimpering and huffing. They then saw that it was the boy as he was crying. It's finally over, the boy said as his tears ran down. It's time me that you paid F for why your sins my Lord. Stuttered the young boy where everyone, including God himself, widened their eyes at what the young boy said. Naruto Shippuden OSD decision. As God's life began to fade away, he saw the boy's eyes to see nothing but pain, sadness, all the feelings of sorrow. Before he could say anything, the boy continued on. You add the stuttering, whimpering talk here. You have to die for all those who believe in you, for all those who had faith in you, for all those who continue to worship you, and for all those that despise and hated you, he cried out as more and more tears ran down his face. You're supposed to be the bringer of hope and peace to show us the way to save our souls, and yet you let so many suffer because of your war. For 100 years, so many have prayed to have them answered, yet at the same time you have failed to help those who asked for your protection where they abandoned you. You can feel can you this power, the power of humanity, the power of light and darkness, the hopes and rage of all the people in your world. He cried out. It was at this moment, God could hear from the boy's sword the voices of the bliss and anger of the rejected that followed his faithful words. I thank you for blessing my family with this meal, my lord, said a young woman praying to him in bliss. I prayed for you and you do not answer me. I have faith that you will deliver us from this darkness. Or are you testing my faith? After I lost my family, I pray to you to give me back my children at least, please, my lord, said the same woman as she cried out in sorrow for the death of her children. More and more cries of sorrow and anger continue as more and more thanks for the blessing that they received by them. There were so many people with their hopes and their hatred for him that even he couldn't help but be amazed on it. It was there that God knew what this power was. This power was the hope and despair of humanity, where their hearts finally gave birth to their own Savior and Avenger. And I have suffered as well. I lost my family but gained friends. I lost my friends but gained a new home, and so forth. I had to listen to all of them cry out in pain for your help but never received it. I had to watch as many lived in pain or grief. It was there that I decided to fight, and in that fight I felt that I could feel a powerful force taking me, and then I awakened with this power. I then knew what this power was, for that's why I did what I did, and now at what am I doing? I had to use this power to kill the 4 great Satans, and you, the young boy cried out. I had to kill you, or the happiness and pain of those who are or were sacrificing your name in this war of yours can finally rest in peace. That's why I was given this power to slay you, and that's my decision as one of your children since you forced me to do this. the boy finished as he continued to sob. All those around the two couldn't believe on what the boy has just cried out. In a way, what the boy was saying was actually right. Their thoughts stopped as the boy continued on. You forced us all to create this power and for me to carry a burden that I will never be forgiven, and that's why even now I hate you, but still I ask you for forgiveness, the boy as he cried louder like a child. God's long white hair covered his eyes that only the boy could see his face. God brought his right hand at the blonde's face while his mouth began to bleed out while his blood continued to leak out from the sword, where the blade finally pierced all the way through his body. With one last breath, God lowered his face to the boy where the boy widened his eyes for a moment as he began to cry even harder. It was then that God's hand on the boy's face fell to the ground as he gone motionless. The boy huffed a bit more before he screamed so loud into the sky above him. With one quickly and violent motion the boy swung his sword up, creating a large slash out of God's body where his blood hit his own body. With that God's body was thrown of him and landed face up dead. The boy looked at God's, now, dead body with his sword held in both hands above him, which he shook in sorrow. His tears continued to pour out before he decided to just leave. He used whatever strength he had left to change his sword into a pair of his wings and flew into the night sky. Michael, Azazel, and the devils tried to get to him, but he had already left. And DxD. The armies outside the circular ring felt the sudden loss of the Satan leaders and high-ranking fallen angels, where the angels cheered while the devils and fallen angels shook in disbelief, knowing that if their leaders are dead then God will come out and kill them. But before any more thoughts could come up, everyone felt God's life fleeting before it disappeared as well. Everyone around was shocked on what they were sensing. It wasn't long before they all saw one figure fly away, where they saw the blue wings, knowing that was the Blue Knight. Not long after sensing the loss of the leaders, everyone paid attention to the center of the battlefield to see Michael, Azazel, and the devils walked out. Before things could go along, one fallen angel yelled out to his fellow fallen ones to continue the fight, since he can see from the expression on Michael and his subordinates, along with the devils, that both God and the four great Satans were dead. The fallen would have attacked, but Azazel stopped them, saying that there is now a ceasefire on all sides. When the knight left, Michael with his fellow high-ranking seraph, Azazel and fellow surviving comrades and the devils walked to the center of the fallen leaders. Gabriel ran towards God's body as she held him close while crying out in disbelief. The blonde beauty cried for the loss of their savior while Michael and the other angels looked saddened for their loss. The devils were also saddened for losing their leaders. It was then that Azazel took pity and called for a ceasefire on all sides, where they agreed since they all want to mourn for their lost leaders. With the announcement, all of them were hesitant, but then saw the bodies of God and the Satans being carried out. The fallen angel that wanted to continue, Azazel stopped since Azazel was the commander of the Grigori, and ordered all his comrades to head back to headquarters or any of their bases for further orders. In the end, the Great War had finally ended in a horrible way. Far from the battlefield, the young blonde finally landed in a remote region that used to be a battlefield from the three factions. He walked up to several graves where he continued to cry since in front of him was the graves of his family, father, mother, brothers and sisters. The night was filled with nothing but tears of pain and mourn. 3 years later. It was high noon as people from a small village in Austria were busy working. In the main marketplace, men and women were busy with their own work or living conditions while their children helped out or played around. In the midst of the crowded area, one person wearing a wool cloak walked through the crowd with an emotionless look on his face. He used part of the cloak as a hood, but few in the crowd were able to the person's face. The person in question was the blonde-haired warrior, also known only to the three factions as the Blue Knight. It's been 4 years since that fateful yet dark day where he killed both the four great Satans and God himself. Since then, he has changed in both body and personality. The young warrior was now in his early to mid-20s that stood 6 feet tall. His blonde hair grew a bit longer, still being spiky while having a short bangs on his side to frame his face. As he walked through the village he can't help but think on how much the earth has changed since the days of his lost childhood. Past. Back when he barely is able to remember his life, 4 years old, he remembered a time when things for him were completely different, peaceful, filled with days of joy and happiness alongside his parents and siblings, not having a care in the world. Those days, he remembered that every morning and every night, his family would gather together and pray to the Lord, in thanks for giving them their bliss. His home back then wasn't much, had the basic necessities while having the beauty of nature surrounding them. In a way, his family believed that God had given them or allowed them to live in the eternal garden that the Bible has written down. As a boy, he was completely blessed since living with his family and happiness, back then, was the only thing he ever wished for and thanked God for it every day. Of course, that peaceful reality didn't last long ever since the night he lost everything. It was the middle of the night as he was asleep along his brothers and sisters while his parents were in another room. They were so deep in sleep that none of them didn't hear the sounds of footsteps coming towards them. Outside the scrawny home, a group of fallen angels were moving in silence as they came to find a place to hide themselves. The reason they were trying to hide was that a larger group of devils were after them. At some distance, there was a small quarrel where the devils and fallen angels fought against each other, where the fallen angels that were able to last the longest retreated in order to regroup and escape, where they found the small home and thought it would a good place to hide. As they went in to hide, a few looked around to see it was inhabited by a family but didn't care for it since they wanted to live. They decided to leave the family alone since if the devil sees the dead human bodies, they'll know that they might be nearby. Going inside the building, one of them saw the cross of Christ on one of the walls. He informed the others, which told them that this was a house of Christianity believers. They had to leave immediately since this could alert the angels of heaven on their whereabouts. As they tried to leave, one of the devils spotted them, which sparked the battle all over again. The sounds of battle that started awakened the family from it. The parents looked out to see that it was battle of supernatural beings. They quickly went to their children to get them out of here and into a safe place. As the family tried to leave, one of the devils was thrown near them, where the father had his wooden pitchfork, along with a cross, to defend his family. He told them to run into the woods for safety. Devil saw the man with a weapon and cross, and though he was an enemy, he quickly attacked and killed the father. The mother and her children ran but heard the sound of a man being killed. The father died on the spot where his children cried, while the mother quickly let go of her grief since the battle continued on. She quickly moved them into the woods but was suddenly struck by a rogue blade of light, killing her. The now orphaned children were shocked and saddened about this. They were too frightened to move. The only thing they can do was just pray, which they did, leaving them undefended. A few fallen angels and devils brought the fight towards them, where their clash was going to hit the children. Just as they were about to hit, another power blocked them, forcing them to back off. In the sky, a bright light appeared, where the children thought it was the sun. It was then that a group of angels descended down to the ground. These angels were nearby when they felt the prayers of the young children as well as the feeling of battle. They originally had no purpose on fighting the two sides, but could sense the innocence of the children, and quickly came to their aid. With the angels' arrival, the battlefield increased. The leader of the angel group ordered two of them to guide the innocent children to safety, while the rest provided cover and support to assure they left unharmed as they deal with the devils and fallen angels. The two angels got the children to run towards the woods towards the nearby river. As they ran, their guardians were forces away from attacks by one of the fallen ones that separated them. In the skirmish, a powerful demonic blast came out of nowhere which hit the children dead on except for one. In one desperate move, the older sibling threw his youngest brother into the sky, where the shockwave of the blast threw him into the river, where he was carried away as he struggled to stay alive. As the morning sun began to shine on the land, the young 4-year-old was on the riverbank just a bit of distance from his home, but still recognized from his time with his father. He started to walk upstream to get back home. It took him about a quarter of the day because of his small body, but was able to make it. When he got back home, the only thing he saw was his home was now destroyed. He walked around till he found several graves with the cross of Christ. It was on their graves that made the boy suddenly cry, since on the graves, he can see his family wooden crosses, that even he had one, being on it. He can tell since along with cross, some beads were on the rope that acted both as a pendant or wristband. As he cried, he pulled out his wooden cross that was around his neck and began to pray. "Oh Lord, please bring Basie, Mama, Papa, my brothers, my sisters," cried the young boy as he prayed as best he could, as he was now all alone. After the fight, several more angels arrived to help those that were still alive. The ones alive felt the battle along with the innocent Christian family that was praying for help. The angel doesn't know on what happened to the children, where he pointed out that they were going near the river. One investigated to only tell them news on that the children were killed. This saddened them, especially from the remains of the home, that these people were strong in belief to the Lord given the Christian items around the house. The only thing they could do was gather their bodies, bury them with their crosses, and pray that the Lord will be kind-hearted on letting the family live in heaven. The boy had stopped praying when his prayers weren't being answered. He decided to head over to a friend of his parents, who were also Christians, that lived not far from here. It took another couple of hours before he made it, where his parents' friends learned on what happened to their friends, learn as much from a 4-year-old. They took in the boy and made him a part of their family, along with their own 2 children, since they knew that their old friends would like that. It was another 2 years where the boy and his new adopted family had left the secluded area to look for a more peaceful place in a large village or kingdom, as well for the husband to look for work, where this time, the boy learned another harsh lesson in life and questioned his faith. The family had moved to a small village where they lived a pretty decent life, which the family continued to follow the path of Christianity. However, faith is not always answered. At one point, the father had gotten sick where the mother and her oldest child had to go to work, while the two young ones were left to take care of the home. As things were getting tough, their employment was cut off, which made food scarce for them. Things were getting pretty bad until the nightmare reappeared once again. Human bandits used the cover of night to start an attack on the small village. Many fought to defend, yet many has fallen in the bandits' attack. The blonde boy and his new siblings were able to escape, but the parents had died. It was also during this attack that the blonde had learned/experienced his first great sin. In order to defend his new siblings, who were 2 to 4 years older than him, he has taken a life. He and his siblings were running away from a burning village that they were living. He and his new siblings were separated from their parents. As they ran to escape the chaos, he and his siblings got trapped in a corner where one of the bandits managed to corner them. The two older siblings were too scared to move, while the young blonde shook in fear at the situation. He looked around to see that the only thing around was a discarded wooden farm fork at his feet. The bandit ran up to them with a wooden club ready to strike at them. It was then that the young boy quickly picked up the fork, at the last second, directly at the bandit, where he unintentionally ran into, impaling himself where the bandit died. The young blonde saw what happened, where he began to shake in disbelief. The only thing he wanted to do was protect his new siblings, but not take a life. In that moment, his older siblings were able to shake off the trauma for the moment, where they quickly got the young spiky blonde and left. Once again orphaned, the three walked together throughout the night till early morning. For the next 3 days, they traveled the woods with no food or water. They would have died if it wasn't by luck or some kind of deity/force that led them to a traveling caravan of people. The three were found by the people and given food and water. The people asked them if they want to join them once they heard the story about their village, which they agreed. For the next 6 years, the young blonde along with his siblings traveled the land while learning about life and continuing with their Catholic ways. During that time, the spiky blonde boy was finally able to deal his first kill, but still prayed for forgiveness to God for his sin. The 3 children traveled all of Europe, from Frankish Empire to the Slavonic tribes, traveling south between the border of Adelkusa and Kingdom of Chaz. Moving down further south towards the Middle East, then turned back north through the East Roman Empire to Italy. During the travels, the young girl learned from her fellow female travelers on how to cook, make clothing and such. The oldest male sibling learned navigation and fishing. The young spiky blonde did the only thing he knew he had to do. From memory, he knew that he was weak and needed to get strong. From the traveling caravan, he found some old trained soldiers or warrior and learned how to fight. The blonde learned swordsmanship, tactics, hand-to-hand moves from veteran soldiers and such. He was able to put his skills through the test when the caravan was attacked a few times, where seasoned and new-coming fighters protected from surprise attacks. Even though there was losses, the 3 siblings were able to survive this and countless other attacks that came. It was through this that the spiky blonde boy was baptized in combat. It wasn't long before all this was put through the true test, fighting against the supernatural world. After years since the death of his first family, the angels, devils and fallen angels started another battle where they were at the center of. Over the years, the blonde boy had heard stories of the battles of the supernatural world that's been going on Earth while traveling in the caravan. From the people that they encounter, the devil and fallen angels has increased their fighting against each other. God and his angels have fought against the other 2 factions in order to stop the fighting on the Earth's surface, but nothing has changed, except the loss of lives, including humans, destruction of homes, and loss of food continue to increase throughout the world. With all this, it also makes question about his faith in the biblical God, given the state of the world. The battle was destructive as the people in the caravan ran for their lives, where families separated from other families to ensure their safety, which the angels helped as best they could. The blonde boy ensured that his older siblings were able to get away as he watched their backs. He carried a sword and shield. His training paid off as he sliced any devil or fallen angel that came too near them for comfort. The boy was too caught up that he failed to notice the magic blast that struck him and blown him away, along with his sword and shield. He struggled himself up as he then saw a light blade spear from a fallen angel came at him. Through great willpower and pain, he caught the blade spear in his hands. He let go as he dropped it and himself to the ground. As he lay there, barely able to move, it was there that he began to reevaluate his beliefs and his teachings. Why? Why is this happening again? He thought as he looked at the burning and dead bodies that was going around him, reminding him on that night so many years ago. I've prayed and followed his teachings just like I was taught by my parents, yet everywhere I go, there was trouble or sadness, pain and misery from those who didn't do anything wrong while following and accepting God's way. So why is this happening? He told himself. He continued to think about this as his heart and mind began to revolutionize on the whole idea of the Catholic way. After thinking about it so much that he decided to fight not only against the devils and fallen angels, but also God himself. If no one is able to stop this war, this constant state of endless fighting, then I'll do it even if I have to do it all alone, the blonde boy thought. In his mind, he awoke something. He felt like he just awakened some kind of power within himself. The boundaries of good and evil, light and darkness, right and wrong were now broken within him. You could say he achieved his own mental balance, break his senses and strength increase, as he fought the devils and fallen angels with incredible speed and strength. But it wasn't enough. He yelled at them to stop fighting since this was a meaningless confrontation for the earth, but none would listen. Another spear of light came at him, where he caught it and actually able to wield and use it, even with his hands burning because of the power. A demonic power blast came right towards him, where he used the light spear blade that was burning his hands to block it. When the attacks collide with the defense, he could feel as both light and dark powers were entering his body. His current mentality was already at its peak, and with the power going through his body, something else has awakened. In that moment, a powerful explosion occurred directly where he was, where everyone else didn't pay any mind to it since the battle still waged on. He is currently drifting in an endless void, void of time or space, void of anything but mixtures of colors in the light and dark. Even though he was drifting in this void, his thoughts weren't in his current predicament, but what's still on his thoughts about God and his faith as a Catholic. He thought of the good that God brought to mankind, yet he also thought on who he left out, abandoned, and sacrificed to do. How his teachings didn't work with everyone. Where people are still fighting for their lives, either by the supernatural or by people who abandoned their faith or were only shown the darkness, not the light of God. It was only the sound of giant roar that actually awakened him. He looked in this endless void to see a creature appearing before him. The creature was moving towards him, where he can see that it was 100 meters tall. Once it came close enough, he saw that it was a great, big, red dragon, great red. Seeing the dragon, he figured he was going to be killed or eaten by this giant reptile. With no weapons in his hands, he intended to live not just for his sake, but for his siblings and to fight against the war that was happening back home. In that moment, the feeling he had before, mental balance breaker, activated again. The dragon appeared and opened its mouth where the young man just readied himself. The blonde warrior barely maneuvered himself and delivered a strong punch at the snot, forcing him above the jaws, but started to bump all over on its back, barely avoiding the spikes it got on it. The punch that he delivered didn't faze the dragon, but it did annoy it. He turned around to see the boy was barely hanging on, but glaring right at its eyes. The dragon already knew that he could easily destroy the young boy, but his eyes showed differently. His eyes, void of fear or doubt, showed a strength, a potential of something great. The dragon glared at him, roaring right in front of the boy, but he didn't back down. The dragon saw that no matter what, the boy believed that he can actually win against him. Great Red went to attack the boy again and see what he can do. The dragon went at him with incredible destructive power. This time, the young blonde was ready again, with injuries and bruises around his body. In his mind, he was ready to survive. It was then that something happened. A strange new feeling came upon him, like his body was now on fire. The dragon saw that the void was letting him show his fighting spirit as his body was covered in both white and dark flames. The young blonde moved with incredible speed where he avoided the claw strike and aimed right at the dragon's head. The dragon didn't feel a thing as the boy punched under his mouth. He roared again, forcing the boy back where the beast pierced through his body with its claw. It was there that both the boy and the dragon could hear each other's heart. The dragon saw what the boy has been feeling and such, where it actually stared at the boy with respect, since not only on his courage and will, but also for believing so much that he can kill it, even his current state. The boy was hearing the voices of hundreds of thousands of people having similar thoughts, those from the Catholic faith. Why am I suffering like this? I have prayed and worshipped so hard and yet God hasn't answered my call to help me? Why am I not blessed? Why can't I have peace in my life? Said a male voice. I thank you, Lord, for giving me strength to keep my family happy. I hope that you watch over my family and keep us safe, said a woman. All this fighting, does God even care on how much destruction that the devils and monsters having been doing to us? Why is there so much death to so many people, especially among the Catholics? Said another voice. The people that thank God that brought them peace and asked for a protection, while the others who weren't blessed because their prayers weren't answered responded with hateful tones. Other people who weren't part of the religion wanted someone to bring peace, while others wanted revenge for all that had been taken. The thing in common with all these thoughts were that everyone in the world wanted peace and happiness. But because so many had their own faith and beliefs, it was so hard for them to actually do so, since none had the courage to do anything about or didn't know on how to achieve the power to help them out. As the blonde was close to death where his consciousness faded, the dragon had another thought. In its wisdom, don't know how much, he gave the boy some of its power to him, where it healed him completely. Then out of that power, it gave him a fong where he would let the boy heart decided on it. The blonde warrior wanted a sword to protect but also help him protect him to survive the war that was happening, to help mankind bring peace and to take revenge on what's happened to them. To put an end to all this senseless fighting and death, where the Fang started transforming into what he wanted, where a hidden secret was embedded into the creation of something powerful, where it was taking in not only his feelings but also the people's wishes and hatred. It transformed into a sword, with hidden ability in it. The sword had a silver handle designed with gold bands. In the center of it, 2 golden pentagrams overlap each other. The blade itself was sapphire/azure color design on it with straight curve edges with 2 gold diamond design in the center and near the tip. Eternity, Sword Quest Wiki. Morning, the sun was starting to rise as light winds spread out on the empty battlefield. In the battlefield, the young blonde siblings were walking around the field to see they can find their little brother, while also looking for supplies. They hoped that their brother was alright and prayed that nothing happened to him. They walked around a little more where the sister found their brother's body. The blonde was unconscious where he heard the 2 yelling out to him from a distance. He was stirred awake where he moved and started to sit up straight. He felt like a mess, like he was hit by a bull or something powerful like that. The 2 siblings cried in happiness as their prayers were answered since their little brother was safe. The blonde smiled at them and was glad to see his older siblings alive. Just as he was about to stand, his older brother asked him something. "Hey little man, how you got that sword?" Where the young blonde looked confused. The older brother and sister pointed behind him where he looked down to see that it was the sword that appeared to him. He began to wonder if the dream he had wasn't a dream but actually happened. The oldest sibling went up to pick it up. "Well, how you got it doesn't matter. With this sword, we can trade this thing to help get us some supplies and get another sword and new shield," the older sibling said as he touched the sword. The next thing that happened is that his hand was burned slightly where he was shoved back by the clamoring sword. "Brother!" Both yelled where they went up to him. He said he was fine but wondered on why the sword burned him. They all thought that the sword must be magical and wondered on how their little brother got it. The young blonde looked at the sword before going up to it. They tried to stop him but the blonde simply picked up the sword, where it glowed ominously. The sword disappeared from their sight. The boy wondered on how it disappeared but this time focused hard where it appeared again in his hands. "I guess the sword must be mine," the blonde stated. After that, the 3 left to continue on with their lives, where the blonde practiced hard in mastering his new sword. At one point, he decided to leave his siblings saying that he is going to help end this war that God and Satans have been fighting. At first, they thought he was nuts but saw that he was serious. They told their younger brother good luck, along on where they are going to live in from now on. For the next 3 years, he trained with incredible diligence on mastering his sword. He struggled for a bit but hired himself as a slayer against any evil demons or devils. Somewhere along the line, he made contact with the Vatican where they offered to let him join their organization since he held a powerful sword that God gave to him. He declined where he had a bit of trouble with them but nothing too problematic. It was in the 4th year that everything changed for him. Several powerful fallen angels and devils had heard about the powerful sword where they went after him. The boy was pushed to his limits, since the sword's power increased his speed, strength, and ability where he actually learned on how to do some low magic such as light, fire, lighting, and even water from traveling exorcists that hired him for some help. He was near Death Door, where the 2 forces battled against each other to achieve the sword. It was then that the 2 factions saw the boy glow ominously as the sword faded away and the boy was covered in both light and darkness. In his place, he now stood fully armored, from the description that I already described. He felt powers like never before, like the armor was absorbing his will which increased in power. The boy moved with incredible speed and power killing his would-be captures. When it was over, he stood above dead fallen angels and devils. Thus the legend of the Blue Knight was born. Present. The boy's thoughts stopped when he heard about a monster was killing people in the northern road where travelers often come from one of the other large villages. The young blonde decided to take care of it since he also wanted information. Night. The blonde warrior moved in the dark forest where the killing has been happening. He walked calmly on the road as he kept his guard up, waiting for whatever would try and attack him. He didn't wait for long when an attack of darkness appeared from the shadows. He dodged it with ease. He kept his cool as he could sense a devil was nearby. As he looked around, he wasn't aware of the devil, slowly, rising behind him with its nails ready to slash him apart. It was then that in an instant, the devil saw the boy in front of him disappeared and looked confused. Before he could think, he heard the young warrior. "So, you're the monster that been killing people. Too bad for you that I was nearby." The blonde would have responded but then saw blood dripping from somewhere around him. The devil then noticed that its vision was now being separated and finally realized on what happened. How could I lose to a human? said the devil, where it split in half before disintegrating into dust. The warrior started to walk back to the village and announced that he's slain the monster. As he calmly walked back, his was in thought on what's been happening lately. Even though now that the world is a little more peaceful since the ceasefire between the devils, angels and fallen angels have basically stopped. I keep on hearing that devils are now acting strange for some reason, attacking territories that are either habited by both angels and fallen angels. Is there something going on in the underworld? I need answers, and I think I know on how to get it. I just hope that he'll come to hear my plea, he thought. Church. It took him only 2 hours to arrive back to the village. After defeating the killing devil, he went to the church since he knew he can get the information he needed from there. It took half an hour to reach the local church, where he walked inside. Silently walking in the corridors, making sure not to awaken the priest. He made it up to the mantle where he was directly below the cross. He looked at it for a bit before sighing, since he knew that he probably wasn't on the angel's good side right now. Go no, Michael and the other seraph angels, I know that you can hear me. I come here to ask you some questions. And as the one that killed your leader, I'm asking you to come out to hear me. If you need proof that it's me, and then sense this. The warrior stated as he began to let loose his power where the candles in the church that lit up the place puffed out of existence. He waited in the dark for a bit until he felt a pure yet powerful aura appeared behind him, where a light shined behind him. The light faded where he didn't face the person but knew who the person was, given the shadow he created with his entrance. It's been a while since we last met, asked the blonde warrior. Yes, it has been. It makes it more curious for me since I figured you would avoid places like this, answered the angel. Yeah, well, things have changed. How's that wound on your shoulder? I hope it isn't too damaged from our fight, Michael. The blonde warrior asked as he turned around to see the god's former right-hand man, Michael the Archangel. Michael is a handsome-looking man with long blonde hair and green eyes. He has 12 wings behind his back that were gold coloring instead of pure white coloring. Michael looked at the man, who still had his hood over his head, only revealing his mouth from the shadows. My shoulder is perfectly fine after some healing. But besides that, I'm wondering on why the night of life and destruction in this sacred place. Michael asked, where he looked at the knight that killed God. The blue knight raised his right hand where he summoned his sword, in a diagonal form where he can make a horizontal slash. Michael stood there unnerved but also kept caution on the situation. Is this the reason why you called for us to finish us off one at a time? Or is it for another purpose? Michael asked. In the shadows of the church, there was an angel hiding in the corridor to assure that nothing happens to Michael. When the sword was summoned, Michael and the angel that was hiding held their breath at what might happen. The blue knight's expression didn't change at all. It was then that he let go of the sword, hitting the ground where he brought his hands up in a submissive manner. Let that be proof that I didn't come here to fight but to talk, the knight stated. Michael acknowledged it, where he then asked for the visit. The knight asked him if he knows anything about the sudden devil attacks on the angels or Grigori territory. Michael explained to him that the underworld is currently in a civil war that started a year ago. From some representatives of the anti-Satan faction, Michael has learned that the original faction that followed the old leaders that he killed wanted to continue the war between the angels and fallen angels. The anti-Satan faction doesn't want to go to war since they want to rebuild their race from all the losses. With that, a civil war broke out against the old Satan faction versus the young anti-Satan faction. Even though the young anti-faction was slowly growing in power, the old Satan faction has experienced where it's been an even battle, especially since some of the fallen angels had joined their side in hopes to help destroy the younger devils while at the same time get rid of potential threats, which Michael personally thought. So let me get this straight. If the old Satan faction were to win against this civil war in the underworld, they're going to break the ceasefire and continue the war on Earth again. Is that right, Michael? The Blue Knight asked. Yes, if the old Satan faction were to win their civil war, then the ceasefire that we agreed on will end. With it, the angels will fight again against the devils and fallen angels, if they decided to enter it. Michael confirmed. I see, so I'm guessing that it's the old Satan faction is responsible for the sudden uproar that is happening around the churches and such. The Blue Knight thought out loud. You're also correct. The anti-Satan faction has helped us by trying to take care of the matter themselves, but since these are young devils with little experience in fighting battles, it's becoming difficult for them to keep things quiet. Michael confirmed the knight's thoughts. The young knight was quiet where Michael could see that he was deep thought. It ended when Michael saw, even with the darkness all over them, the serious, piercing blue eyes that he had. Michael, I have a favor to ask you, the knight asked, looking at Michael. What would that favor be? Michael questioned. I need you to give me way to enter hell, he asked with determination. Countryside. The sun was high as a gentle breeze blew all through the land. Birds and other animals are busy doing their own things, giving the current atmosphere a soothing feeling. As the terrain gave a beautiful scenery, on a pathway was a young man with a hood cloak, where it was down to reveal his face. The young man was 6 feet tall, who was in his mid-20s, wearing the standard clothing that the people in the 9th century would wear. The person walking down the path was the Knight of Life and Death, also called as the Blue Knight. Currently, he was traveling to the farthest northwest territory in Frankish Empire, Britannia, which was only half a day away for him. It's been a week since he had his conversation with the Archangel Michael and his request to venture to hell. Flashback. The great Archangel Michael, who was the first angel that biblical God has ever created, couldn't help but have a look of surprise and disbelief. Right in front of him, the knight that killed his leader/father is asking him to give him a passageway to enter hell, willingly. The great angel looked at the piercing blue sapphire eyes of the warrior before taking a bit of serious look of his own. Michael took a deep breath before letting go as he looked at the young man. "Why are you asking me this? What do you hope to accomplish for making such a request?" Michael asked seriously. The young warrior looked at Michael with a serious look. "I intend to help the anti-Satan faction win in their war by killing the leaders of the old Satan faction," he plainly said. "Why do you want to do that? Is it for glory or vengeance?" Michael asked. "I don't fight to make a name for myself. And I have already been through enough to forget about any vengeance that I had a long time ago. The reason I want you to send me to hell is assure the peace in this world," the knight stated. "For peace? You intend to throw yourself in the depths of the underworld where sinners and the darkest of souls are sent in order to maintain peace," Michael clarified. "Yes," the young warrior stated, where he told him that he'll go to the underworld and help end the devil's war so that human world would be safe for the time being. Even though he had his own personal reasons, he knows that by going to the underworld to ensure that the anti-Satan faction win is the right thing, since they said that on their side, major families and other high-ranking devils don't wish to continue the war since they want to secure their family's safety and such, which would take decades or centuries depending on what's going on. I see, although you must understand that the devils on either side would have their own issues against you. Even if you do help in stopping the Great War from restarting again, they would still come after you for what have you done to them for the past decade," Michael said. "I already know that, and I don't care about it. As long as I'm able to ensure the safety of this world, then I'm okay with it. I'll just have to sleep with one eye open," the Blue Knight stated. "And if you actually manage to survive all the way and end this world, I suppose you'll return to Earth?" Michael remarked. The Blue Knight looked at Michael as he said, "I intend to survive all the way to the end, but I'm not coming back," giving Michael his answer, where Michael looked a little confused before understanding on what the Blue Knight meant. "I see, so that's the reason why you want to go. You plan on dying over there, am I right? Do you believe that by fighting and protecting both the earth and heaven would give you sanctuary? Are you asking us to allow you into heaven when you die? Even with all the sins you have done, and not just us in heaven, but also the devils and Grigori group, in order to receive redemption?" questioned Michael. "No, I don't want redemption. If anything, I wish that for my family that the angels failed to protect, and my adopted family that took me in sanctuary for all of them, since they have nothing to do with this. As for me, you can send my soul to the deepest abyss or in limbo for all eternity if you wish," the knight answering Michael's question. Michael was surprised on what he just heard, and by the look of the warrior's face, he was completely serious. Michael asked on why he is making such requests, on why he is sacrificing everything, even his afterlife, for his request. The young man told Michael that this world has suffered so much because of the supernatural world. So many families were separated and lost from the battles that took place here, where many had prayed and yet haven't been answered, where they all died. The young knight would have talked more about his reasons, but he said that he chose to be the guardian of the world, where he intends to protect it with everything he has, even sacrificing his own peace. After hearing the knight's plea, Michael looked at his piercing eyes to see that he wasn't lying and was willing to go try any method to reach the underworld. With that, Michael sighed as he looked at the Blue Knight. "All right then. Give me a bit of time and I'll have everything ready for you to journey to hell," Michael answered. The young knight nodded in acceptance, and said that he has his own affairs that he needs to address before leaving. He held out his hand out again, where his sword that he dropped on the floor instantly came back to his hand. Once he got his sword back, he resealed it back into his body. With that, he started to take his leave from the church. As he was leaving, Michael turned his head towards the young man and asked him something. Out of curiosity? Getting the knight to stop and get his attention, "May I know the name of the one that killed my father? If not, at least let me see your face, since I haven't been able to see it through the times we were together," asked Michael. The Blue Knight turned his head, where his blue sapphire eyes can only be seen from his hood. The young man stalled for a moment before he reached for his hood and pulled it down, revealing his face. Michael and the hidden angel were finally able to see who the Blue Knight really was. They can see that he was in his mid-20s with short, spiky, golden blonde hair. Small bangs of his hair framed either side of his face. From Michael's own perspective, the young man looked handsome, while the hidden angel couldn't help but blush at seeing his face. Of course, there was also something that made them curious, since his face showed that his appearance has an ancestry that didn't live in this part of world. Now you know my face. As for my name, I had thrown away the name that my birth parents have given me. If you must call me something, call by my weapon's name, the Blue Knight stated. And what would that name be? Michael asked. Nexus called himself. Alright then, Nexus. In 1 week's time, come to the Vatican. There is where you'll get the information on going to hell, Michael stated. Can you give me 2 weeks, since I like to make my goodbyes? Nexus asked, where Michael agreed. With that, Nexus walked out the church, where he can see that the moon has already began to descend back down, showing that it passed midnight and was now early morning. With that, Nexus used his power to summon a pair of his legendary blue azure wings from behind his back and flew into the night sky. As he left, the hidden angel came up towards Michael. Michael, are you sure it's alright to do this? Asked the angel. Yes, from the look of his eyes, I can see that he was very determined and serious about going to the underworld. With this, the possible danger that may come from the underworld, if the old Satan faction wins, might be taken care of by him. And this way, he intends to die the way he wants to. It might be an unwarranted punishment or sentence, but I believe he made his own choice. Don't you agree, Gabriel? Michael said as he looked back to the most powerful and beautiful woman in all of heaven, the seraph angel, Gabriel. Gabriel agreed. Where she looked back at where Nexus left, she couldn't help but blush a bit from seeing his face. End flashback. As he was finishing with his memories, he noticed that he was finally here in Britannia. He quickly made his way towards the sea, since one of his most important treasures rests near the shoreline. It took him another few hours as the sun was beginning to set, where he finally made it to his destination, after passing several other homes along the way, a small comfortable house that was near the ocean shore. The house was made of rocks and thick wood to ensure that it would be strong against the storming weather, as well as for rough seasons, and big enough for a family of 6 to live in. Around it were a few pins and a small vegetable farming ground. At the beach laid a port with a fishing boat tied onto it. The thing that caught his eye, however, was the Christian cross that was on top of the entrance door. Nexus walked on the grounds as he made his way towards the main house, where he saw candle lights illuminating the home. Nexus guessed that the people inside the house were about ready to enjoy dinner. He moved towards the front of the door, hearing the voices of rowdy noises of young and old people, where he knocked on the door. The home went silent for a moment before hearing someone walking towards the door. He waited outside before he saw the door open up to reveal a beautiful young woman who was mid to late 20s. She was a few years older than Nexus, where she has brunette hair, braided, wearing a nice short-sleeved shirt and long skirt. She had very beautiful light brown eyes, who looked a bit confused before finally recognizing the person in front of her is. You are? The young woman stuttered out before Nexus spoke to her. It's been a few years, hasn't Elizabeth? Nexus smiled. It was then that Elizabeth quickly went and hugged her younger brother with a cheerful squeal. The people inside came to the door to see Elizabeth cheerfully greeting the guest. The young man, who was the same age as Elizabeth, quickly greeted Nexus with a smile on his face. My God, it's been a few years, hasn't my brother? Said the young man. It has been. The last time I saw you two was when this little girl over here was a year old. Pointing at the girl who looked like her mother except she has red-brownish hair. It has been. Kids, come meet your uncle, the young man said, where the kids cheerfully ran up to him, where they hugged him with all their might. I hope you've been taking care of my sister, since you know that I or our brother would make you regret it, Aaron. Nexus joked at him. Aaron is the same age as Elizabeth. He was the same height as Nexus, where Elizabeth was half a head shorter than them, while having short bright red hair. The story behind this is that Nexus helped Elizabeth and their brother look for a home in Britannia 10 years ago. During that time, she met Aaron, where both hit things off as friends. It was later, before Nexus announced that he was leaving home for good, that they both grew close. Nexus came back to their wedding a few years later, where many friends and Aaron's family rejoice off their union. Nexus later visited again, where he found out that she had a baby girl, named Joanna, with Aaron, and couldn't be happier for her. I see that you now have son. I'm guessing that he's only 3 or 4 years old, Nexus said as he looked at the light brown hair boy. Yes, his name is Michael, after the Archangel Michael, Aaron stated. Nexus said that it was a lovely name. Joanna said that she hoped that the Archangel Michael would not only watch over her younger brother but also them like God. Nexus agreed, where he inner thought about keeping the Lord's death a secret. Dinner is about to be served, how about you come and join with us? Aaron suggested, where Nexus humbly agreed since he said that was the reason he came here, where everyone laughed. During and after dinner, Elizabeth and Aaron asked Nexus about his life on being an exorcist. A while back, Nexus told them that he became an exorcist for the church and did missions that heaven has asked him to do during the Great War. Of course it was a lie, so they wouldn't know what he really did. Oh, it's very dangerous when fighting against sinners and dark beings. But with all my faith, God helped protect and gave me strength to overcome such obstacles. Because of all my hard work, determination, and faith, I was finally able to see them. Nexus explained. Them? Asked Joanna. I saw the archangels, Michael and Gabriella. Smiled Nexus, where the family looked at him with astonishment. They began to ask him questions about how they look like, what type of personality they have, and such. Nexus told with a smile on how they look like, where they looked envious on being privileged on seeing them. The reason why is because this family is also follower of God himself, Catholic like Nexus used to be. You're so lucky, uncle. I wish I can see both of them including God, Joanna said. I actually got to see God himself, well actually just his figure from a distance, Nexus said, where everyone looked wide-eyed at the young man. Nexus began to explain that he helped in the final battle against the devils where God fought and won against the 4 Satans, but got hurt himself. He told them that he saw God from a distance since he helped in protecting the wounded angels that fought alongside him. The family were happy to know that God returned peace to the world and defeated the Satans. Nexus told them that it was because of many people's faith that the world will be peaceful one day in the future. Nexus had a hidden frown on his mind since he practically told his sister and her family a lie. After he killed God, he decided that it was best to keep it a secret from everyone since he doesn't know on what would happen if people knew about it. He didn't even want to think on what could possibly happen, so he decided for himself that he'll keep that bit of information to himself and take it with him into his grave. Later, underneath the shimmering stars, Nexus walked on the beach that was close to his sister's home. He comfortably walked alongside the coast, enjoying the light breeze that the sea gave him. He walked for a bit more before he stopped as he closed his eyes. He slowly opened his eyes, where he turned his body and gazed towards the ocean. I know that you've been following me for the past few days, so you might as well come out now, muttered Nexus, where he waited for a bit. It didn't take long before a bright white glow appeared behind him. He turned around to see that it was one of the top 4 seraph, Gabriel. Nexus looked at Gabriel with curiosity since he wondered on why she was here. Hello Gabriel, why have you been following me for the past couple of days? Are you here to tell me that Michael has finished with the arrangements? Nexus asked. She shook her head to tell him that Michael hasn't completed his request. Instead, she looked at Nexus with a bit of bitter/upset/angry look, where Nexus was wondering on why she was looking at him like that. What's with the look? You look like you want to strangle me or something like that? Questioned Nexus. Before Gabriel could say anything, she saw Nexus look startled as he looked back where he walked. She waited for a moment before seeing him look back at her with concern on his face. Gabriel, please pretend that I work for the church, Nexus asked instantly. What? She stuttered in surprise. Please, the family I'm with doesn't know anything about me. They don't know about him being dead. So please keep it a secret and pretend I'm exorcist, Nexus said before he went on one knee like he was bowing to her. It's a great honor to be near your presence once again, Lady Gabriel, Nexus said. Before she could ask on why he was doing this, she finally sensed why he was so worried. She sensed that someone was approaching them, a young and innocent soul from what she can tell. It came from the home that he was staying in, where she looked down at him. It was then that she got what he wanted her to do, keep the secret of his life, just that, a secret. She quickly got into character. No, I as well as my brother and father should be the one thanking you for all your hard work for these years. I know that you're having some time to yourself, so I hope you enjoy your freedom before we have to call you up again, Gabriel said. I see, so this visit is just to thank me. You shouldn't, since I'm doing this out of my own heart. But if anything, can you watch over my family and grant them peace when they go to heaven? That's all I like, Gabriel, Nexus humbly asked. Do not worry, I can sense the purity of their hearts. They'll be welcome to heaven, just like the little girl that is watching over us right now, smiled Gabriel as she stated where she near the hill near the beach, while Nexus acted surprised at being caught like this by his niece Joanna. Joanna woke up in the middle of the night where she heard some noise moving around the house. She looked over to see that her uncle had left the house. She looked around to see that her family was still asleep, so she went to follow him since she was curious on why he was leaving so late in the night. She followed for about 15 minutes before she saw a bright white light glimmer ahead of her before she decided to look for herself. It was only when she reached him that she saw that he was kneeling down in front, of her own opinion, the prettiest lady she has ever seen, but was also wondering on why the woman had white wings behind her back. She quietly got closer until she can hear them mutter out their conversation where she can barely hear. It was only when she heard Gabriel's name that she was stunned in disbelief, where she decided to secretly leave. She of course stopped when she overheard that she's been found out. She quickly kneeled down on both knees and started to pray for forgiveness for sneaking up like this. Nexus, acted, quickly went to Joanna's side. "Joanna, why are you doing here? You should be in bed?" Nexus asked, but figured out the reason already. "I came because you left the house in the middle of the night, uncle. I was worried when I saw you walking away. I didn't know that you were meeting Lady Gabriel. I ask for forgiveness from the both of you," muttered Joanna. Before Nexus could say anything, they both heard Gabriel walk up to them with a smile on her face. "Do not worry. You're only a curious child. It's natural that you follow your uncle even if it's a little dangerous for you to be out this late," said Gabriel as she smiled at the young child. Gabriel guessed that the child was 5 to 6 years old. Joanna felt like she had no right to look or speak to Gabriel, where she kneeled down and used her hands to cover her eyes as she muttered her apology to her. Gabriel could see that the child had a lot of love and respect for her and her father, the biblical God. Gabriel told her that it was alright and that she can look upon her. Joanna did what she was told, where she looked up in amazement on how beautiful Gabriel really is. Gabriel is an extremely beautiful woman with curly blonde hair and a voluptuous figure, where Joanna believed the Bible said that Gabriel was the most beautiful woman in heaven. She can tell from how she spoke to her that she was a humble and polite angel and can feel this warm presence coming at her, like she could feel true peace. After getting the shock out of her system, Nexus told Joanna to run back to bed since he doesn't want her family to worry about her. Joanna agreed, where she began to run back home with excitement in her heart. Both Gabriel and Nexus waited until Joanna was out of sight before going back to their conversation. But before they could, they heard Joanna say out loud to Nexus, "Uncle, you were right. You did help the angels fight against the darkness. I'm so happy that God is watching over us," with a smile on her face and new faith in her eyes. Gabriel looked hurt, where she then looked back at Nexus, who already went back at looking at the ocean. "So you have told your family that you work for the church and have been fighting with heaven in the Great War?" she stated. "Yeah, well, I can't exactly say that I fought against not only devils but also angels and God himself, since they are Christians," Nexus explained. "So, they don't know about my father?" Gabriel questioned. "No, my sister and her family are very faithful in the ways of God. I can't exactly tell them that their lovable uncle is the one that killed him now, can I? Besides, I don't want them to feel like they are carrying a burden on their shoulders. If anyone should carry that burden, it should only be me," Nexus explained. "I see," Gabriel said as she turned around and began to leave. "Where are you going? I thought you talked to me about something," Nexus asked. "I already got my answer. I bid you good night," Gabriel said as she disappeared in a white light and went back to heaven. Once she was gone, Nexus went back to his sister's home so he can enjoy whatever time he had left. It's been a few days since he was visited by Gabriel. During that time, he spent it with his family, getting to know on what's been happening, bonding with his niece and nephew, making memories with both his sister and brother-in-law. He enjoyed making all these memories with them, which was the most important thing to him since it strengthened his resolve on what he intends to do. His 2 weeks are nearly over, where he decided to tell his sister on why he came to her and her family. Nexus asked Elizabeth to come with him near the beach so they can talk. They walked for a bit before they both stopped to see the sunset over the horizon. Sister, I have something to say to you," Nexus started out. "What is it?" Elizabeth asked. "That this is the last time that I'll be visiting you," Nexus stated. Elizabeth sighed as she crossed her arms together. "I already know that." Nexus didn't look stunned, just a bit surprised. He then sighed as he asked her on how she knew. She told him that the way he acted, the way he bonded with her family, and how he kept looking at the horizon over the distance. She guessed that he was going to do something important, and that it would take him away from his family. "You're right, I am going away and I won't be coming back," Nexus replied. "Is this a request by the church?" Elizabeth asked. "No, it's more by heaven instead, which I agreed to do. In fact, I'm supposed to leave today," Nexus stated. "I see, Elizabeth started to say before Nexus interrupted her. "Don't call me that. My name is Nexus now. I've forsaken that name ever since I joined the church," Nexus remarked. Nexus, if you are going to go away forever, then at least promise me one thing, Elizabeth asked. What is it, sister? Nexus asked. Promise me that you have a happy life like me, Elizabeth requested her younger brother to do. I don't know if I can, but I'll try to find it, Nexus said, where Elizabeth smiled for the answer. They stayed like that until the sun completely set, where Nexus told her that he needs to go now. He told her his goodbye and wished for her and her family to live happily. He asked her to give his goodbye to his niece and nephew for him, where she agreed. He also asked her if she meets with their older brother again to tell him that he's sorry that he couldn't say goodbye to him himself, where she agreed. With that, he began to walk away from her and the home and not look back. Nexus walked for a good hour before he used his power to form 2 pairs of his blue wings and flew up into the air. Nexus decided to head to the place where he knew would be the best place to have his meeting with Michael, in the Vatican. The journey took him all night, where he used the stars to navigate his way. It was early morning when he arrived at the Vatican. He sneaked his way to the main lobby of the church, where he made it to the front part of it. He looked around to sense that there was no one around. When he confirmed it, he looked up at the front stage where the cross was located. Michael, I'm here. It's been 2 weeks since I came to you. I'm here to ask you if have completed my request, Nexus said out loud so Michael can hear me. Nexus waited for a moment before he got his response. In front of him, Gabriel appeared in front of him. Nexus was wondering on why she would appear to him, rather than Michael. I see you've arrived, she stated. Yes, I'm curious on why Michael isn't here, Nexus remarked. Michael is very busy since he and the other Seraph are busy in remaking the system that God had placed up, Gabriel explained. I see. Has my request been completed? Nexus asked. Yes, although Michael had to ask for some help, Gabriel answered. What type of help? Nexus was curious about. You need to head towards Tagathia. Let your power pour out of you, where your help to enter the underworld will await you, Gabriel explained, where she was ready to leave after giving him the information he needed to know. Wait, stopping Gabriel from leaving just yet. I know that heaven won't forgive me, nor do I expect it, but still, thank you for letting me do this, Nexus gratefully said to Gabriel. Nexus quickly ran out of the church, where Gabriel prepared to head back home to heaven, but not before controlling the blush that appeared on her face. Next day. Nexus has flown from the Vatican to Gothia, making it by noon. He silently traveled to the most populated village/town, where he decided to eat and rested until night. When night appeared, he went to the highest and most isolated building in the town. When he did, he spread his blue azure wings out to let his help find him. He waited for an hour before he felt a strong, familiar aura coming from the north of the village. He quickly took to the air and traveled to the source of it. It was a short trip where he made it to a secluded area, which was a graveyard. Nexus walked around towards the power was coming from. It was short walk where he then saw a small, old body holder building. I'll figure out the name later. As he got closer to it, he sensed a large power coming closer to him, where he stopped right in front of the structure. Nexus turned his face to the right to see who his help is, which he was somewhat surprised to see since he once spared the person's life once. Wearing somewhat noble dark clothing, stood a man who was 2 inches taller than Nexus. He looked to be in his 20s with black hair and golden bangs. But the thing that made Nexus recognize him was the fact that he had 12 jet black wings on his back. So, you're my help in getting into the underworld, isn't that right, Azazel? Nexus stated, where Azazel approached him with laid-back look on his face. It's been a while. The last time I saw you was when you flew away with tears in your eyes as you pierced God in his heart with your sword that contained the 4 blood of the dead Satans. You've grown up, Azazel stated. Azazel breathed a bit before looking at the man in front of him. So, I hear from Michael that you wish to get to the underworld. Why do you want to go over to that place? Are you trying to start something? He charismatically said to him. I heard about the Devil Civil War that's been going on in the underworld. I wish to fight alongside the anti-Satan faction to assure that the Great War doesn't start up again, Nexus stated. Azazel looked at the young man in front of him and could see that he was completely serious. He analyzed the man for a moment or two till he sighed, seeing that he wasn't showing any doubt or fear, where he led him further away from the village and graveyard. Once a bit of distance, inside a forest, Azazel turned around to meet Nexus' gaze. It was there that he pulled out, from his clothing, a plain old silver sword hilt, where he tossed it to Nexus. Nexus looked confused, where he wondered what it is. Azazel saw the confusion Nexus got, where he decided to finally tell him what it is. That hilt is the key to get you into the underworld, Azazel stated, where Nexus still looked confused. Azazel explained to him by channeling magical energy into the hilt, it would form a blade that would cut the dimension of the earth and teleport to the destination the possessor wants to go. It was created for the use of humans, who worked for the Grigori group, to get them to the battlefield or areas that they needed. Unfortunately, not many humans didn't have that much magical ability, so there was only this one hilt that was made. And you sure that this would work? Questioned Nexus. Yeah, I personally created and tested myself. It worked pretty well, Azazel answered with much confidence. With that, Nexus got what he wanted where he prepared to leave, but not before thanking Azazel with this key. He prepared himself to use the teleportation device before he heard Azazel to wait for a moment. Even though I told you how it works, I still need to tell you something else. Where Nexus paid close attention, the hilt can only be used once every 8 hours. If you go into a battlefield and end it in 4 hours, then you'll be trapped in the underworld until the charge up is completed for another 4 hours, which would leave you completely vulnerable for anything over there. That's also including getting any medical help. Azazel warned him. An 8-hour gap to enter and leave, huh? Nexus muttered to himself. Yep, so here's something else. This will show you a map where I, personally, put in secret bases around the underworld. You can use them to rest and recuperate when you are not fighting, Azazel said as he handed Nexus a device that would show/tell him where the bases are. Nexus looked confused, where he wondered on why Azazel gave him this. Azazel sighed as he told him that even though they were enemies, he owed him his life since Nexus spared him a while back. He intends to repay him complete, which this would clear any debt. With this, you're on your own, Azazel stated. Nexus thanked Azazel and prepared to leave, but heard Azazel asked on where he got his sacred gear, since it's something that he doesn't know. Nexus said that it's a sacred gear that was born by the light and darkness of humanity, in a way. He also hoped that this power will be forever lost, since he plans on taking it with to seal it away for all eternity. By the way, what's your name? Azazel asked curiously. My name is Nexus, Nexus answered. Nexus, oh well, good luck, Azazel accepted as he started to leave the area. Once explaining, Nexus activated the sword and sliced the nothingness in front of him, where a large 2-person gate opened up. Nexus began to walk towards the lighted gate, where Azazel can see that there was no fear or hesitation in walking towards the underworld. Entering the gate closed along with Nexus' fate. As Azazel was leaving himself, he thought on what he just did. I hope you come back. After all, someone who is able to put their own feelings aside for the sake of the world is someone that this world will need one day. It would be very interesting on how things would play out if you do return. Azazel thought as he walked out of the woods before spreading his jet black wings out and flew away from the area. Morning. The sun was rising from the horizon as the suburban city of Ko was starting to move with life. In the middle of the city, the students of a prestige academy were making their way to start another day of classes. The academy name is Ko Academy, named after the city/town, recently an all-girls private school turned co-ed. The academy building itself was more of a European model than a Japanese one. It had a cobbled pathway and a water fountain in the center of the courtyard in front of the school. In front of the gate was a stone bridge that stood over a water pathway that was just next to the street. As the students entered through the main gate of the academy, many students stopped walking when they heard a loud engine roar coming closer to the school before lowering down to a hum. Curiosity soon skyrocketed as everyone saw one of the most amazing motorcycles that anyone has ever seen pass by the main gate, then parked in a parking area that was across the street from the school. It was a MV Augusta F3 with orange/white paint job. As the students looked at the motorcycle from a bit of distance, they saw the person was parking the cycle at a nearby, open parking area that near the school. The person riding the bike got off and took off his helmet, where the female students couldn't help but squeal and gush, lust for some, with excitement at seeing the young man walking towards the academy. Earlier. It was Friday morning as the sun had just risen, an hour ago, as a young man was finishing a light early morning training at a nearby park. The young man was 5 feet 9 inches who had short, spiky, golden blonde hair with 2 small bangs framing both sides of his face while having blue sapphire eyes with lightly tanned skin. Physically speaking, the young man was considered to be very handsome. His body was lean yet muscular, which can clearly see through his shirt. The young man is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the future heir to the Namikaze Corporation. Naruto is an 18-year-old teenage boy, who, at a young age, is considered to be a prodigy. He recently moved back to Japan after being abroad for the past 13 years. The reason is his parents are the business owners of the Namikaze Corporation, that is one of the most profitable companies in Asia and Europe. Growing up while moving around the world, his parents have raised him to be a very respectable and honorable person. As a child, his parents, even with a busy schedule, has done as much as they could to raise him as a normal child, never spoiling him but instilling important values in him, such as respect, loyalty, truth, and so forth. Naruto finished his workout where he went back home since it was near the time that all high school students headed towards school. Of course, he doesn't start school until Monday morning. The reason he wants to head to his new school was to get his class schedule and look around the academy since he wanted to get first look of it so he doesn't have to get lost or anything like that. He made it to his family's home, which was a 2-story mansion that had several bedrooms, bath restrooms, everything along with special types of room. Inside, there was an oval office filled with books, Detective Conan, Kudo Home. Upon entering his home, he quickly made it to the bathroom that was located downstairs to take a bath. Getting clean, he wore sweatpants and tank shirt for the moment, as made a small breakfast of egg and bacon on rice with orange juice. Finishing breakfast, he quickly changed from his current clothes to his street clothes, which was basically light blue jeans, an orange short-sleeve shirt under a black, athletic, leather jacket while wearing steel-toe shoes. Around his neck was his family's heirloom, a small green-blue crystal necklace, Shodaime Hokage necklace. He went to the back of his house where he kept his motorcycle inside a garage where it also held something else. Once he got it out into the street, he quickly put on his orange-black flame helmet, hopped on the bike, and left to locate his new school. He drove around for half an hour before locating his new school, which he thought it had a great artistic design for the building. He moved around the school where he found the parking area where he immediately parked his bike. Crossing the street he walked, with a straight back, with both strength and confidence while leaving his helmet with his bike. His face was void of any hesitation since he had a neutral look. All the girls had blushes on their face as they saw him walking into the academy grounds. They all thought that the young blonde was the strong, handsome, bad boy. The guys looked jealous since he was getting the attention of all the female students. He walked inside the main building where he looked around for a bit until he found the academy main office. Later, as classes were in session, Naruto moved as quietly around the school so not to disturb the teachers and students from their activity. Earlier, he conversed with the academy principal where he explained on why he arrived a few days earlier than schedule. After explaining his reasoning and receiving his schedule, he waited until classes started before starting to silently exploring the school with the principal's permission. He first went to find his classroom where he wandered about silently without causing any disturbance. Once he located, he left to go find the school council room to introduce himself to them since the principal explained to him that the president would be able to help him get the details of the school. A bit of exploring, Naruto located the academy council room where the academy president's office is located. He looked inside to see that the people in the student council aren't in, which he figured that they'd be in class. He decided to wait around since he would like to get things over with and not do a round trip again. He stood by the window as he looked at the scenery over the school ground. He decided to waste the time by sketching the view in front of him. He looked around the room where he found a pencil and blank sheets of paper, along with a clipboard. Noon. It was lunchtime as the students were given permission to leave class to eat. It wasn't long before the current members of the student council made their way to the student council room. Entering it, they all saw the person sitting in the president's seat with their attention outside. The council members separated to allow the student president to move forward to see the young blonde sitting in her chair. She calmly walked up to him where she coughed a few times to get his attention where he didn't even notice it. She moved closer to get his attention only to see that he was clearly focused on the task he was doing, sketching the scenery that was in front of him while applying a bit of fantasy. It lasted a bit longer before the president poked his shoulder to break his concentration. He snapped out of his trance to look at who poked him. He turned to see a young woman was standing over him with a neutral face. He can see that the young woman was 5 feet 5 inches tall where she had black hair, styled in a short bob cut and violet eyes while wearing a pair of red glasses. Naruto stood up and looked directly at the young woman where he gave his apology about him being here. "It's okay. Although I would like to know who you are," asked the female president. "I'm the new transfer student, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I just came a bit earlier to get my class schedule and to tour the academy a bit so I know what's what." Naruto introduced himself. The president looked in thought for a moment before realizing who it was. "Oh yes, I've heard about you coming to the academy next week. You are a bit early, but that's alright. Now you said you came to get your class schedule and to tour the academy grounds for a bit," the young woman said. "Yes, what's your name?" Naruto politely asked. "Oh, my name is Sauna Shirtorai," Sauna replied. "Nice to meet you, Shitori-san. And yes, I did come to get a bit of a tour since I don't want to get lost on my first official day attending the classes," Naruto explained. Sauna nodded where she looked at the other council members. "Well then, Tsubaki, you don't mind showing Namikaze-san around the school a bit?" asking her vice president. "No, I don't mind showing him around. Tsubaki answered where Naruto looked at her. Tsubiki is 5 feet 7 inches foot young woman with knee-length black hair with split bangs and light brown eyes. She also wears blue, semi-rimmed glasses with square lenses. Naruto looked at her where he bowed in thanks for taking the time to show him around. But before they could begin the little tour, Naruto spoke up first. I know that it's lunchtime right now from seeing the students eating their food around the school. So if you want to eat first, I don't mind waiting a bit longer since I don't know how much of a break you have. Plus, I can finish up my sketch. Naruto stated. Tsubaki thanked Naruto and took the offer since she was a bit hungry. The student council had their lunch while working on some paperwork. During that time, Naruto took a free chair that was in the room to finish his sketch of the scenery. Tsubaki finished her lunch in a few minutes where she told Naruto-san that she is ready. Arigato, where he then placed the sketch in front of Sauna. Consider this a thank you, Naruto said with a smile before following Tsubaki out of the room. Sauna looked at the sketch where she admitted that it was very well drawn, where it had not only the scenery but also a fictional setting blend into it to give a dream world effect. He's a pretty good artist, Sauna stated, where she then continued to work. The tour only lasts for 30 minutes, which Naruto was grateful since he still needed to check out the rest of the town. Tsubaki escorted Naruto around to the major points of the school. During the walk, he noticed that the female body looked at him with adoring eyes, along with the hint of lust in some. It wasn't until they reached the music department that stopped the tour a little bit since he noticed the lovely black grand piano. Tsubaki watched as he slid his hand in all the keys, where he did it a couple of more times in certain areas. A couple of keys are out of tune. I can see that the outer part of the piano is well cared for, but no one seems to have taken care of the interior of it though, Naruto stated. Is that so? Then I should inform Kaicho about it to retune the piano later on, Tsubaki said before looking at him with an impressive look. I must say that you have keen ears, Namike-san. Thanks, I'm a pretty good piano player, although Naruto explained as he left the piano alone and picked up a violin. I'm much better in a violin or any other musical string instruments, where he started to play it in a hip-hop version. See Josh Vietti promo video, Hip-Hop Violin Medley .1, without the background music. Naruto's violin playing caught the attention of a lot of students that were nearby, including those outside the building. Tsubaki had to admit to herself that Naruto's violin playing is the best she ever heard, where there wasn't anyone in this academy who can play that good. She can also see the joy that was on his face as he played to know that he was truly passionate about music. Once his little fun was over with, Naruto asked to continue with the tour. He visited all the places such as the cafeteria, library, and other important areas, including showing him the outside tennis court. Finishing the tour, Naruto bowed and thanked Tsubaki for showing him around the school. She told him no problem where she took her leave, but also thanked him for the violin performance. Leaving the school grounds, he decided to look around the tree scenery since he would like to find a good place to train for another passion of his. He walked close to the old school building that was near the gymnasium. He looked around before hearing some giggling coming from some bushes. He went to investigate it, where he found 3 guys, kneeling down on all fours, looking through a window. He looked alongside them where he saw several young women changing clothing. From the outfits that were scattered around, he guessed that these girls are from the Kendo Club. Naruto narrowed his eyes since he values respect for others' privacy, plus he also an honorable fighter who follows the way of Bushido. He broke the 3 grinning boys' view when they heard a cracking sound. All 3 boys turned to see a pissed-off blonde with his knuckles ready to give them a beating. All 3 screamed as Naruto got all 3 of them and gave them several lumps on the head along with several bruised areas on their bodies. The girls from the Kendo Club heard the screaming and painful agony that was coming outside the changing room, where a few of the girls immediately checked out the commotion. They all saw the handsome blonde give a beating to the 3 known perverts that the girls knew about. Alright, I think that's enough of a lecture from me. However, I believe the girls from the Kendo Club would like to have a word with you, Naruto said as he turned to look the girls. The Kendo Club girls blushed at seeing the handsome blonde, where they smiled at him before turning serious and going inside to get their kendo sticks. Naruto only waited for a minute before the entire girls of the Kendo Club came out with their kendo sticks. Naruto quickly grabbed all 3 by their collars, dragged them closer to the Kendo Club girls where he gently looked at all of them. Ladies, even though I gave them a nice lecture where they all saw that each of the 3 perverts looked up at the blonde like he was crazy, while the girls looked pleased, but I think you ladies like to have a word with them. So please don't be too harsh on them, Naruto stated. We won't, they cheerfully said to him as he tossed the 3 perverts towards them where they gave the 3 perverts another beating. Naruto walked away as the girls beat up the perverts. He decided to leave the academy and check out the city. As he was leaving, he could feel someone was watching him. He looked around where he only caught a glimpse of red hair that came from an open window from the old school building. He decided to drop it since he figured it must be some girl looking at him again. As Naruto walked past the gate, the figure that was watching him went back to the open window where they continued their gaze on him as he left. The gaze that was viewing him before once again stood at the open window to view him leaving. The person that was watching him leave had their thoughts interrupted when someone else walked up behind them. Does Rias have an interest in the young man?" said the person in an amusing tone. "Who knows, but I must say that he is definitely interesting to say the least, Akeno," Rias remarked. "Yes, from his display of strength in beating up those 3 boys definitely shows that he's strong," said Akeno. "That is also true, but I'm more interested in the fact that I can sense a strange power within in him," Rias stated. "Strange power?" confused Akeno. "Yes, if you look closely, you can see that it's very mysterious power," Rias stated as they looked at the fleeting figure. Akeno moved towards the open window to see Naruto leave. Akeno looked at Naruto's leaving figure with a keen focus eye. "You're right, Rias, it is mysterious, although it would be very interesting to figure out who he really is, especially if we can see what's under his clothes in the process," Akeno said with lust in her eyes as she looked at Naruto's butt, where his jeans gave a good impression on how firm it is. Rias also gazed where Akeno was viewing, where she mentally agreed with Akeno. Monday. The weekend has come and gone where Naruto was officially ready to begin his first day in Ko Academy. On his motorcycle, Naruto smoothly and quickly moved through the suburban city. He made it to the academy 15 minutes before it began, where he parked his bike in the same parking lot that was located near the academy. Walking on the cobblestone path, his entrance was both graceful and majestic for the female students. Wearing the boy's uniform definitely attracted the unwanted attention he hoped he didn't get. Naruto wore a black blazer with white accent, a white, long-sleeved dress shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants, and brown dress shoes. He felt uncomfortable since he preferred jeans, shirt, and sneakers than the school uniform. Reaching his homeroom, the teacher greeted him with a bit of enthusiastically where Naruto nervously smiled and politely greeted him back. The teacher then went into class while Naruto waited outside a bit as the teacher wanted to take care of attendance first before introducing him. When the attendance over with, he explained about a new transfer student joining the academy for the rest of the year, where he called Naruto to come in. Naruto calmly walked inside the class as he moved towards the front center of the room. The female classmates looked at him with sparkling eyes at seeing the hot new transfer student, while the few males looked a bit peeved at seeing a guy getting the girls' attention. Naruto coughed a little in his fist to clear his throat. "Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I just returned to the country after being abroad for the past 13 years. I hope we can get along for the rest of the year," Naruto said as he bowed his head in respect and curtsy. After giving his name and introduction, the teacher assigned him to sit next to Rias Gremory. Naruto obliged where he walked towards his assigned seat. He looked to see that Rias Gremory is an extremely beautiful young woman. From what he can tell, Rias is just an inch smaller than him with a buxom figure, light skin tone, and blue-green eyes. Of course, the thing that drew his eyes the most was her long, crimson-red hair that reaches down to her thighs, with a single hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead, and side bangs framing her face. Her school uniform only added to her beauty. The school uniform consisted of a white long-sleeved, button-down shirt with a black ribbon on her shirt collar worn under a black shoulder cape and a matching button-down corset, a magenta skirt with white accents, and brown dress shoes over white crew-length socks. A moment of staring, Naruto quickly shook his head as he smiled sheepily at Rias, who giggled softly in her hand. Sorry about me staring at you," Naruto stated where he went and sat down on his desk. "It's alright, you're new here. It's a pleasure to meet you, Namikaze-san. My name is Rias Gremory." Rias introduced herself to him. "A pleasure, Rias-san," Naruto replied. Afternoon. Naruto was, currently, riding on his bike around town as he still hasn't finished exploring it. As he rode along, he stopped thinking about Rias for some reason, which was strange for him since he has seen just as many young women as her. He remembered that in the past when he was 13 years old that there were many young and cute girls wanting for his attention. Though he liked the attention, he didn't really care about such things yet, where he preferred to practice either his artistic or athletic/martial arts skills. For the next 5 years, many teenage girls from different social standings, not to be rude about it, has tried to win his affection, yet none has ever gained it, where they only earned his friendship and nothing more. From blondes, brunettes, raven hair, redheads, to white and silver heads, from petite, curvy and buxom figures, none of the young females' charms worked on him. In some point, his parents thought that he might swing the other way, but after some conversing he just explained that there wasn't a girl that he was attracted to women but just hasn't found the right one. In his own words, he said to his parents, "I just want to find that one woman that I can fall in love with and want to spend with the rest of my life with, like you two are." His parents smiled at that since they can see that their son was just waiting for Cupid's arrow to hit him. Over the years after that, he has been training in any kind of artistic and athletic/martial arts event he could. He played in violin, piano, art and painting competitions, while also playing in sports event either singular events such as Kung Fu, Taekwondo, Kenjutsu in both European and Asian styles, while doing team events in soccer, basketball, rugby. His studies weren't affected in all this since he maintained an A-grade point average. So, he continued with his daily life where he never gained an attraction with any woman. It's because of his past that his thoughts turned to Rias. The moment he saw Rias, his mind did a 180 where his thoughts turned to Rias for some reason. During the day, he saw many young women being friendly, while trying to put the moves on him where he acted politely towards their advances. Even around them he couldn't help but think about Rias since he admitted to himself that she was the most attractive woman he has ever seen. He couldn't help but feel like there was something more about her than she is letting on. Putting it behind his head, he decided to head home and take care of some business. Evening. Naruto was prepared to head to bed wearing nothing except a pair of sweatpants. As he was about to head to bed, he decided to look at one of his past masterpieces, one that mystified him very greatly. Returning home, he immediately worked on his homework where he finished it in an hour. Finishing his studies, he made a simple dinner where he then proceeded with a bit of light training while watching TV, push-ups both hand and one-handed, crunches and sit-ups. Finally, taking a shower to getting rid of the sweat, he called it a night but not before going to his art room. Over the years, Naruto has created several masterpieces of art that range from sketching to painting on canvases. His best works were brought and left in this house since this house belongs to his family for the past 4 generations, which is renovated several times with the changing times, yet still has some features from the past. His art studio was located on the 2nd floor on the west side of the manor. The room was remodeled where there was a skyline on the ceiling, a few large windows on the wall to show the setting sun. On the ceiling, going along 3 horizontal tracks along the skyline was a lighting ceiling track system that doesn't affect the ceiling, 1 track on each end and 1 in the center. Upon entering, he turned on the lights on the dimmer to bring enough to light the area for him to see. He walked up to the center of his art studio where he viewed his most mystifying painting. The painting gave both a loving and mysterious feeling. The background scene was a hot spring in the middle of winter setting where snow gently fell from the sky that covered the minimal rocky landscape that was painted on. The hot spring that was painted showed a lot of third dimension like he has seen it himself. But the thing that captured him was his centerpiece that took almost half the canvas. At the bottom of the painting showed a beautiful woman with a buxom figure, bathing in the calm tranquil water, coming out underneath the hot spring after taking a huge dip in it. Coming out of the water, on the woman's back were a pair of white angel wings. She has a creamy pale complexion that slightly matches the snow, showing how elegant and smooth her skin is. Her silver hair was let loose and fell straight all the way down to her back in a wave motion. Her arms cross each other covering her as her hands gently rub her skin. Her white wings covered the rest of her modesty, while her loose bangs covering her forehead overshadow her eyes while showing the gentle smile on her attractive face. The woman's image, drawn beautifully, was a bit blurred in some parts, such as the face and other features around the body. It showed the steamy areas where making it show that it was a realistic scene. This painting is one of only several secret artworks that Naruto created but never shown in public, except his family. Naruto gazed on the painting that he made 5 years ago and for a moment, he could have swear that his painting was looking back at him. Why am I so fixated on you? Even though I know that you're just an imagination? Naruto thought before turning back and leaving the room for the night. Morning. Naruto was, currently, training in the thick trees surrounding Ko Academy. He was currently wearing a pair of sweatpants, a black loose long-sleeved shirt and a pair of sneakers. Moving with great speed and precision as he held a bakken in his hands as he trained in his kenjutsu. Twisting, slashing, and thrusting his bakken as he ran, leapt, and swerved in different directions as he continued to advance himself in his sword fighting technique. He has a set schedule, for himself, on what he would be doing for the week in the morning and evening. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays are physical training days where in one week it's either to increase in stamina/stretching workouts while the next will either being hand-to-hand combat or kenjutsu. Tuesdays and Thursdays are artistic practice and practicing his artistic skills or musical practice string or piano. As he continued to train, his mind went to what has happened in the past month since he started to attend Ko Academy. In a week since he started, he has risen in popularity. His first rise was when the Kendo girls spread word about how he beaten up the 3 biggest perverts where he learned that they were called the perverted trio of Kuo. The next step to his rise in popularity was during PE class where the boys were off working out on the field while the girls were in the gym. After the initial warm-up of jogging a mile, the boys were separated into 2 teams. The track was located near the school, so anyone in the classroom were able to see outside towards the field. Out of the entire boys, only Naruto wore a white loose long-sleeve t-shirt with navy blue accents with the Academy logo emblem embroidered on the left breast and navy blue track pants, while the rest wore short-sleeve shirt, same design, and short with navy blue and white sneakers. The boys didn't like it since they all thought that he was just special or something, which they decided to show Naruto on who's top dog in a game of soccer. The teacher in charge stated that it will be shirt versus no shirt, which Naruto was in. Naruto asked the teacher to let him switch places since he doesn't want to remove his shirt, but the teacher didn't give him a choice and to man up. The guys made fun of him since he acted like a sissy but quickly shut them up when he showed them, which he chuckled at their looks. Flashback. As one team start taking off their shirts, Naruto walked up to the teacher to ask him to switch teams since he doesn't want to take off his shirt. No, I'm not switching teams. You're already given special permission from the principal to wear the winter wear, but here, I'm in charge. Now take off your shirt, or have a failing grade for the day. The teacher stated he wasn't budging from his decision. Naruto sighed as he slowly walked away and headed towards the sidelines, where he was going to take off his shirt. Normally, he wouldn't care about receiving a failing grade for the day, but he had his deal with his parents on assuring that if he continues on having an A grade point average, he can live by himself. As he walked towards the sidelines, the male members from the other sports clubs started to make fun of him about taking off his shirt. Aren't you acting like a little girl now, huh? Said one from the baseball club, where everyone started to laugh. Do you want a sports bra or a nice blouse? Said someone else, where the other guys chuckled at the comment. The taunting continued on until he made it to his destination, where he began to take his shirt off, where the sideline was located in front of the academy building, where the people inside the class can see them. Hercules: The Legendary Journey Intro. Slowly, Naruto placed his hands on his shirt, where he lifted it up over his head to take it off. Once he took it off, he tossed his shirt onto the ground, where he completely exposed his chest. The male students shut up after seeing Naruto's physique, where they were now embarrassed themselves in shame as they had a red face on their face, especially from what Naruto has. Naruto has a muscular yet lean body that would make every guy jealous. Negima CH238 page 2 Negi Springfield. Along with his sculptured body, there were some scars on his body. On his chest, a light diagonal slash ran from his left shoulder down past his heart, while on his back, 2 scars were diagonally across each other but was deeper. This showed that Naruto has been in violent fights that had sharp objects slice at him. While stretching his arms and upper body in a way, the teenage boys looked at Naruto while looking at their own bodies, which they dropped their heads even more in shame or embarrassment, since none of them come close to having a 6 or even a 4-pack abs. Naruto then started to walk into the field, where he then looked at them with mocking smile at them. Now, what's this about there being a girl in this class? I can definitely see a lot of them here. Naruto gestured where he got himself ready for the game. Before he got himself in position at center field, he looked at them one more time as he said out loud to them. Oh, and to just let you guys know, the only reason why I wear these track pants is the gym shorts are too tight and short, since it would reveal more than I would like, especially since I don't wear any underwear, just knee-length swim trunks, Naruto said with a smirk. It took a couple of moments before they all got the message, where they looked even more embarrassed because of the inadequate difference. End OST. End flashback. It was after gym that he saw the sudden change towards him around the female student body. During lunch, walking across the hallways, he noticed that all the teenage girls had blushes on their faces and eyes of lust towards him. He wondered why, where he then noticed a couple of girls were giggling at a cell phone screen. Out of curiosity, he stood behind them to see a picture of himself, bare-chested, in gym class. The girls looked back where they blushed and ran away in embarrassment. He guessed that some girl or girls must have saw him like that, where they took pics and sent them around where the whole school now knows. The final step in his popularity was when he befriended both the great ladies of Ko, Rias and her best friend, Akeno Himejima. He remembered that after a week in the school, his friendship with Rias started when they had lunch together, where Akeno tagged along. Flashback. Sitting outside underneath a tree that viewed the tennis court, Naruto sat peacefully, enjoying the view, as he ate his homemade lunch, 2 ham/cheese sandwich, chips, and sports drink. As he ate, he noticed the presence of 2 people coming towards them. He looked around to notice his classmate, Rias, and someone else behind her walking closer to him. He looked at them where he politely greeted them. Good afternoon, Gremery-san, and who are you, pray tell? Greeting both Rias and her friend, who he asked her name as well. Good afternoon, Namikaze-san. I hope you're having a nice lunch. Oh, the person behind me is my best friend Akeno Himejima, where Rias introduced her friend behind her. From what he can see, Naruto couldn't help but think how beautiful Akeno is, where she rivaled Rias in both looks and body. Akeno was also a buxom young woman with very long black hair and violet eyes. Akeno's hair is tied in a long ponytail that reached all the way down to her legs, with two hair antennae sticking out from the top and sloping backwards, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place. Oh, well, hello Himejima-san, I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. A pleasure to meet you. Naruto greeted the newcomer. Hello to you too Namikaze-san, I hope you're having a good first week here in Ko? Greeted Akeno. Naruto nodded, telling her he was where he looked at Rias. So Gremory-san, on your way to eat somewhere or something? Naruto asked. Actually, we're hoping if you don't mind if we ate lunch with you, since I would like to know more about you. Rias explained. Know more about me? What do you mean? Naruto asked. Well, you've been abroad for all your life and it kind of interests me to know where you have lived for all that time. Rias admitted, while she actually had a different agenda on her mind. Oh, well, sure, okay. However, you got to answer my own questions from me as well. Naruto asked, where Rias nodded in acceptance, where both Rias and Akeno sat down next to him. Rias asked Naruto on where he lived when he was abroad. Naruto told her that because his parents are the owners of a big company, he has moved from Japan to live in the major cities in Europe's countries such as Portugal, Germany, Italy, France, and United Kingdom, as his last visit. He usually stayed in school in each of these countries for 2 to 2.5 years before transferring to another whenever his parents have to move because of business. While growing up, he has done several noticeable activities that many European schools had actually wanted him to attend with a scholarship. His parents, of course, didn't want that, since they wanted him to be close to them, since even with a hectic work schedule, they still tried to be good parents, where they did their best on raising him whenever they had time. His father, that looked like an older version of himself as Naruto described him, has taken him on trips, from fishing, to camping, to rock climbing trips, where they not only enjoy the activities, but also had some father/son time where they talk about anything important that was on their minds. He also learned all his martial arts, along with the etiquette that goes along with it, from him, since his father was pretty good back in the day, since he still maintains his body with training. In fact, Naruto said as he undid his shirt and collar, where he opened it up to reveal his chest, where both Rias and Akeno blushed a bit from seeing his well-toned chest, but then saw the light scar run diagonally down his left shoulder. This scar is something I received from him when I fought my old man, blade to blade. Stating as both Rias and Akeno look at it, then at Naruto, since he looked like his scar is a mark of honor for him. He then talked about his mother as the best, personally, mother in the world, where she had done many things for him. She has always been there whenever he felt depressed about something, or teaching how to be a good person. Teaching the piano and string musical instruments, as well as encouraging him on his sketching/painting hobby. Every time he visited his parents during his school's free time, she always made a home-cooked meal, trying to be the best mother she can be. Growing up, his parents, whenever he had something important in his life, they would drop everything and come to see, either in his sports team/martial arts competition or either in his artistic/musical events, they would be there to cheer him on. Once Naruto answered Rias' questions, he asked Rias and Akeno about themselves, where Rias first explained about herself to him. She said that she's studying abroad to Ko from her home since she wants to be more independent for herself. Her parents come from a noble lineage where they are also partly in charge of a business where she was expecting to one day take over. Akeno has lived in Japan all her life, where she was descendant of Shinto priests. When Rias arrived, she soon met with Akeno, and soon became best friends with her. Rias also explained that she is also the president to the Occult Research Club, while Akeno became her vice president of the Occult Research Club. The Occult Research Club, you mean stuff about the supernatural like monsters, Yuki and stuff like that? Naruto asked. Yes, although we are now focusing on more of the Eastern mythology such as angels, fallen angels and devils. Akeno explained. Naruto said, since he was always been curious about such things for some reason, but never actually got into it. Rias saw the curiosity in Naruto's eyes, where she leaned a little closer to him, saying, Namikaze-san, do you believe in such things? Asking the male blonde. Naruto suddenly felt something strange, where his vision changed to another similar situation, but instead of Rias, it was a young woman with silver hair, from his painting which he didn't figure it out, appeared in front of him with her hair covering her the top half of her face, yet can still see that she was very beautiful, where he felt he was at peace. His vision disappeared as fast as it came, where his attention was back on Rias. Well, I can't say that I'm not curious about it, by the way, Gremory-san, you're leaning a little too close to me. Naruto sheepishly stated, where Rias looked surprised for a moment. Oh, sorry, Rias apologized to him, where she looked surprised about his response. It was then that they heard the warning bell ring off to alert the students that lunch was finished. It was there that Naruto refixed his shirt and got up. He then put out his hand where he gently and swiftly pulled up both Akeno and Rias from the ground. Heading back to class, Akeno left to go to her own class, which was 2 rooms apart from them. See you after school, Bucho. See you next time, Namikaze sent Akeno, bidding farewell. Naruto responded. Nani? Akeno asked confusedly. You can call me Naruto said to Akeno. Well then, please call me Akeno, Naruto-kun, Akeno said affectionately to him. Alright then, Akeno-san, Naruto said. As Akeno left, he turned his attention to Rias, who looked a little sad/depressed about something. Naruto walked towards his class while he looked at Rias. Well, aren't you coming, Rias-san, smiling at her. Rias perked up when Naruto called her by her first name, where she saw that he was smiling at her, silently telling her that it was alright to call him by his first name. Rias put on a gentle smile as she walked right next to him. I'm coming, Naruto-kun, with affection. End flashback. Ever since then, his friendship with both Rias and Akeno has progressed smoothly to the point where he actually told them where he lived. With his friendship also brought a bit of an annoyance, since the entire academy thought that Akeno and Rias are trying to get Naruto to date one of them, where they all thought it was going to be a love triangle. He stopped thinking about on what's been happening in the past month, where he focused back on the here and now. He stopped his practicing as he went to his gear, academy uniform, school bag, hygiene supplies such as shampoo/body wash, etc., and other things he needed, to check on what time it is from his cell. He saw that it was only 30 minutes before school started, where he decided to call it in for now. Walking out into the opening towards the academy gym building where the male shower room is located. The female students that had arrived around the time saw Naruto emerge out of the tree line to see Naruto walking out, covered in both dirt and sweat from the obvious kenjutsu gear that he carried with him. The girls looked at him with lust in their eyes, since Naruto's sweat was soaked into the shirt, where it outlined his chest for them to see his chiseled body. Refreshing himself, changing his clothes, securely putting his stuff in one of the gym locker, eating a protein bar, Naruto went to his class for the start of a new day in the academy. Upon entering, Naruto was soon greeted by Rias. Good morning, Naruto-kun, casually said Rias. Morning, Rias-san, Naruto greeted back. So how the second prince of Koa Academy doing this morning? I hope your kenjutsu training went well this morning, Rias said as she smiled cheerfully at him with her eyes closed. How did you know I was training in kenjutsu? Actually, more importantly, why did you call me the second prince of Koa Academy? Naruto asked out of confusion for the last question. Oh, I just heard it from some of the girls around the school. They said that you were covered in sweat while carrying a big duffel bag over shoulder, while you held a bakken in your other hand. Naruto nodding in understanding, where Rias continued on, and for the second question is because the girls sees how polite and respectful you are to them, along with having an attractive face, that they started to call you that. Finished Rias, where she looked at Naruto to see that he chuckled dumbly at the idea of being called the second prince of Koa. Naruto-kun, what's the matter? I thought you would like to have this much attention, she asked him. Most guys, yes, but me, I prefer not to have that much attention drawn to me because of my talent or looks. It's annoying, since almost every girl I've met has either wanted to have me as their boyfriend just because of what I can do or whom I'm related to. Personally, I would like to have a girlfriend who was more my friend, like you, Rias-san, Naruto admitted, where Rias looked a little surprised while having a tint of red on her face. It took a moment before Naruto realized on what he said, where he, with a bit of a blush, excused himself to Rias since class was about to start. Rias accepted it while she took the moment, after Naruto walked away, to go think on what Naruto just told her about having a girlfriend who was his friend. Early evening. It's been a couple of days since the awkward conversation that he and Rias had. Not much has changed except Rias' reaction towards him. He saw that she was trying to get closer to him, but not like any of his fangirls or such, like she wanted to really get to know him. For the past couple of days, she started to open up a bit to him, where he also did, which felt really nice since, besides his family, he never really opened up to anyone before. He can also feel that he can actually see Rias as more as a friend, but wasn't going to try anything until he's absolute sure about it. Naruto was walking back home, carrying his school bag over his shoulder while his other hand carried his violin case that held an original, Stradivarius, which he holds with great pride and honor. Naruto found his instrument in an abandoned home in Italy 8 years ago. He was exploring the wilderness around the area since he was on vacation with his parents. As he explored, he found an old home which he remembered the people saying that it was abandoned, where no one maintained it, which showed from the old and rotting wood that was around it. In his mind, he decided to explore in it just to see where he walked in. It wasn't long before he fell through the floor to the basement. He wasn't injured but was annoyed for falling. He looked around a bit to see where he found a secret compartment. He opened it up to see a few things and an old violin case. He opened it up to see a beautiful violin that looked to be in great shape. He went and took it to his parents where they had it appraised by a professional. It took several days of evaluating where they soon got the answer where they learned that it was an original Stradivarius, changing the total number of original Stradivari instruments from 650 to 651. The instrument belonged to Naruto since he found it, and the original family that lived in the house was gone. With it, they taken it to a professional to re-maintain, retune it and authenticity by the Museum of Music, Interpreti Veneziani. For the past couple of years, he and his violin had played in several concerts where many didn't know that the instrument was the real deal, where he and his family would chuckle and laugh about it. On a low note, only a couple of people knows about Naruto's Stradivarius, where only the Interpreti Veneziani curator, a trusted tuner from the curator, and his family. As Naruto walked towards his home, he made his way to a walking overpass bridge where he spotted something very unusual. He saw from a bit of distance Issei in the middle of the bridge where he stood in front of a young girl from what he can tell. Now, he knew about Issei from what he's heard from the student body, where he heard that Issei was one of the three perverts, also known as the perverted trio of Ko. From what he heard, he moved closer where he saw who it was. The young woman who was next to the young pervert was very attractive with long black hair that reached down to her hips and violet eyes. She wore a school attire which consisted of a dark red jacket with the letter P embroidered in gold, a white undershirt, a Reba W, and a green skirt with a thin white strip around the lower end of it. Getting closer to them since he needed to cross the bridge to get home, he felt that something was off here for some reason. As he got closer, he heard the male brunette spoke out just loud enough for him to hear. "Alright, I like to go out with you," Issei answered, where he then had a blush on face for embarrassing himself when he spoke too loudly. The young girl laughed at Issei's behavior, where he laughed along with her. After a bit more talk, they both exchanged digits to each other, where they then separated to go home. Naruto can tell by the brunette's behavior that he must be on cloud 9, where he couldn't help but think on how weird the situation is before shrugging it off. Who am I to judge? For all I know, that raven-hair girl might be into guys like him, or she might be just as perverted as him for all I know. Everyone has their own quirk, Naruto thought to himself. The young girl gently smiled as she walked across to the other side while Issei walked in the opposite direction as her. It wasn't until she reached the other side when she caught Naruto walk towards her with his eyes closed and such. She looked a bit surprised but instantly went to her casual happy look. Naruto opened his eyes to take a really good look at the girl, where she had admitted to himself that she was a real looker. Just as they crossed paths with each other, Naruto's body suddenly snapped up where he felt that danger was around. He looked around as he wondered on why he felt like this but didn't see anything other than the raven-hair girl. He pondered for a moment before shrugging it off as he left for home. Unknown to him, there was someone watching the scene that has been unfolding. From out of the shadows, a young girl slightly came out to the open from behind some street signs. She has hazel eyes, white hair with two bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back has a short bob cut. She wears a black cat-shaped hair clip on both sides of her hair. But the thing about her is that she wore the Ko Academy girl's uniform, without the shoulder cape. When she watched Issei and the girl leave each other, the young girl was about to call her senior but stopped when she saw one of the two princes of Ko walking across the same bridge as well, where she witnessed the surprised look he had when he crossed paths with the raven-hair girl. The young girl watched until the blonde continued his venture back home. In a gothic room, Akeno was busy making fresh tea while humming a nice melody in doing so. On a coffee table that was nearby, a chessboard with its pieces were strategically put into certain positions. As Akeno was finishing making tea, Rias walked into the room after taking care of some business. She looked around where she saw the chess pieces. It took her a moment before she made checkmate on the puzzle before her. "Not bad, Akeno, but it was still too easy," Rias simply stated. Era, that was sure quick, Bucho, and I thought I made it harder than usual," Akeno responded, where she then served tea to Rias. It was around at this time when the young white-haired girl came into the room after coming back from the street. Rias greeted her young friend. "Kaneko, welcome back. Tell me, did anything happen to the target?" Rias asked. "Hi, Bucho," he made contact with one of them. Kaneko responded. I see," Rias remarked as she thought about the situation. Her thoughts stopped when Kaneko explained to her about what else she saw. "Bucho, I also saw Namikaze-sen crossing paths with the same person that Issei contacted," Kaneko stated, surprising Rias and Akeno. When it came to Naruto, Rias couldn't help but think and blush about the conversation they both had a couple of days ago. She thought about what Naruto told her, about how he wanted a girlfriend who was more like his friend, where in her mind she agreed with, since she wanted a boyfriend that cared for her as her friend. She thought about Naruto more often, especially since he was able to do something that no mortal has ever done before. He is certainly an interesting one, Habucho Akeno stated. Yes, especially since his weird power actually negated my charm magic on him, Rias added to the statement. Akeno looked curious when Rias explained that for the past couple of weeks, her relationship with Naruto has steadily increased to the point where she can trust him. Of course, the thing that got Rias so intriguing in Naruto was because of the several times she had used her magic on him. He seemed to negate/disregard it in some way or another which interested her. I can see why you're so interested in him, Bucho. If he can negate a simple charm as well as enter a simple barrier without even knowing it, anyone would be interested, Akeno remarked, where Rias agreed with her friend. Rias' thoughts were interrupted when Akeno continued on. Personally, I'm more interested in seeing what's underneath his pants, since seeing his chest up close showed a lot of promise, chuckled Akeno as she placed a hand on her face from imagining it, where Rias blushed as she visualized Naruto's chest, where even she admitted to herself that she dreamed about it in her sleep, about her laying on top of him and feeling it with her hands. Her thoughts about Naruto's body stopped when the short, petite girl spoke up. What are you planning to do next, Bucho? Asking her leader. Rias thought for a moment before answering her young junior, with ease say, it depends on what he does next. For Naruto, I'm going to go and confront him myself, stated with a smile. Akeno and Kaneko looked a bit surprised on that last part. They both knew that both Naruto and Rias has gotten closer in the month, but they didn't think she would confront Naruto by herself, which they figured that she used some other type of method. One thing is for certain, tomorrow morning is going to be exciting. Noon. Naruto was leaning on an open window as he felt the gentle breeze on his face. As he stood there, the female students looked at him with admiration, since he looked like a model standing the way he is. His pleasurable view was disturbed when he looked down to see Issei looking at his cell phone while giggling at it, while his two cohorts looked at him with envy. He guessed that it must have something to do with the girl he talked to late yesterday afternoon. Naruto's gaze changed from his gaze on the perverted trio to the sight coming towards him. From behind, he heard a couple of girls giving off awe sounds towards something. He looked around to see Rias walking along the hallway. As she walked towards him, he couldn't help but admire her beauty, especially since for a bit of time he actually felt attracted to her. He even thought about asking her out on a date, but decided to wait since he wanted to be sure before doing it, since he doesn't want to ruin his relationship with her with the awkwardness. When Rias came close to him, he greeted her like usual, where she did the same. Once they greeted each other, Naruto expected her to move along since he knows that she's a busy person, but saw her acting a little weird towards him right now. No, Naruto-san, do you mind if I ask you something? Rias asked. Sure? What is it? Naruto replied while looking confused for a bit. Rias took a small breath and was about to say it, but the moment she took another look at him, she suddenly started to get nervous. She doesn't know why, but she can feel her heartbeat increasing, her face heat up while her mouth was open a bit, like she was trying to come up with the words on what she was going to say. Naruto looked at her confusingly since Rias was acting strange towards him. From what he was seeing, Rias was acting shyly and nervously for some reason, where he wondered on why she would act like that, since from all the time he has seen her, she always held an air of confidence. It took a minute or two before she finally got her act together, where she took a deep breath and looked at Naruto with a nervous face. Naruto-san, do you? Rias started off. Yes, Rias-san? Asking Naruto. You see, I was hoping if you could tutor me in French? Rias blushed as she asked Naruto. Daunting a look of curiosity, he looked at Rias with wonder. You want me to help you with French speaking? Naruto said with his eyebrow quirk up. Hi. You see, I have been meaning to learn a new language for a bit, since I can already speak English, Japanese, and Swedish. I was hoping you would help me in learning it, since you already can read and speak it, Rias asked with a blush. Naruto thought about it for a moment before he happily answered her. All right, I have no problem in teaching you French. Where Rias looked pleased about it, since today is Friday and if you're free later on, let's meet at the library or somewhere you like, suggested the young blonde. How about Sunday at your place, since I have a couple of things that would take up the rest of today and tomorrow, Rias replied. Naruto shrugged it with acceptance, since he didn't see the harm of it. They both talked on where to meet first before going to the blonde's home, which Rias then walked away with a satisfying smile, while Naruto gazed at her leaving before turning back to the scenery outside of the school. Evening. It was late in the evening as Naruto was finishing playing Mozart, No. 5 in A, second movement on his violin, not his Stradivarius, a different violin. He played it to not only enjoy the music but also to get his mind to focus on a few things. His thoughts turned to Rias Gremery, since tomorrow, she'll be visiting his home for her French lesson. He wondered on why he actually agreed to help tutor her in studying another language. At first, he wondered if there was something else, like she was just more curious about him than learning another language. He figured if she was interested in him, then he could understand since he was also interested in her, so much so that he actually wanted to ask her on a date, which really surprised himself. Over the years, so many young teenage girls had asked him out, just as beautiful as Rias, but he didn't have any feelings towards them. With Rias, he felt that she was someone special where he felt comfortable being around her and Akeno. In fact, besides his family, Naruto has never actually opened up anyone to else. Finishing both his thoughts and musical piece, he placed his prized musical instrument back into its special case before heading to bed. Sunday. It was late morning as Rias Gremory strolled at the walkway towards her meeting destination. As she walked, she noticed the looks that many people were giving her. Teenage and young adult males looked at Rias with a blush since she was beautiful, while the women looked at her with envy or jealousy at her amazing figure. Rias was wearing a tight, sleeveless red striped top that displayed her chest size as well as showing her thin waist size with tight white jeans which showed her well-toned legs and firm rear along with casual sandals. She also carried a medium-sized purse on her right shoulder. Arriving at the meeting point, she looked at herself to see that she arrived about 5 minutes early where she decided to wait for her date to arrive. While waiting, her thought turned back on how she ended up on going on a somewhat date with Naruto even though it was for her to investigate on him. Sure, she found him attractive, but it was his power that she was interested even more. While thinking things over, her thoughts were disturbed when a group of 3 guys came walking towards her. The 3 young men were in their early 20s, walking around without a care until they spotted Rias. One of them decided to go and see if she would want to go out with him where his friends follow. When he approached her, he got her attention where he played it cool. Rias looked at the young man, figured that he wanted her on a date with him, which he asked in a way that she need help, where she gently smiled at him. "No, I don't need any help. I'm just waiting for my friend. He should be here in a bit," answering to him. The young man frowned a bit while his 2 friends chuckled at him acting so cool. He decided to up his game where he got closer to her. "I don't know about you, but personally, he should have been waiting here for you. How about you forget about him and come with me and my friends? I'm pretty sure you'll have more fun with us," said the cocky man. Rias was getting tired at being hit on by some stranger and was about to tell him to leave her alone when she heard a motorcycle engine coming up to her. She and the 3 guys looked to see the motorcycle stop in front of them. Getting off it, taking off his helmet revealed that it was Naruto. "Hey Rias, sorry if I made you wait. I kind of got held off by traffic," Naruto stated. "Hey Naruto, it's okay, I just arrived here myself," Rias remarked. As the 2 greeted each other, Rias took notice on what Naruto was wearing. Naruto was wearing a long-sleeve black hoodie where the hood was orange all over it, and in the interior, a short-sleeve white shirt underneath it with black baggy jeans and sneakers. Rias blushed since his clothing really suited him pretty well. Her glancing at Naruto's body was dismissed when the guy that was trying to get her to go out with her moved forward. My, so you're her date. I can't see on why she would want to go out with you when she can actually go out with a guy like me?" said the young man as he sat himself up where he was about half a head taller than Naruto with a bit of a bigger build and muscles. "Unlike you, she's interested in going out with man like me," Naruto responded, getting the guy's friends to laugh at him. Being pissed off, he threw a surprise right punch at Naruto's face where Naruto caught it in his right hand. The guy tried to pull his hand away from Naruto, but Naruto had a very tight grip which was only getting tighter. Naruto squeezed the guy's fists before they can all hear his hand crack from the pressure while he was kneeling down from the pain. Naruto sighed before looking at the punk. "How about you leave now or your friends and relatives would have to visit you in the trauma unit?" Giving the guy his only 2 options. The guy struggled to get up or at least break the grip before agreeing with Naruto's option on leaving since his fist felt like it was about to break. Naruto let the guy go where he started to walk away where his friends helped him out. When they left, Naruto placed his gaze on Rias, where he actually took notice of her clothes. My Rias, you look absolutely fabulous in those clothes of yours. I hope those dorks didn't bother you too much?" asked Naruto as he glanced up and down. "No, you came just in time. And thank you for that lovely comment," Rias gently responded. "That's good to hear. Now, how about we get started with your lesson?" Naruto suggested where Rias agreed. Naruto opened the compartment of his motorcycle to pull out another helmet where he gave Rias his full-face helmet while putting on his half-helmet that he pulled out. Getting on his cycle, he looked back to see that Rias was actually a little nervous where he guessed that it might be because she's never been on a motorcycle before. Rias, are you nervous on riding with me?" questioned Naruto. No, it's just Rias started off before Naruto interrupted her as he said, "You've never been on a motorcycle before, haven't you?" Where she nodded. After some persuading, promising that nothing is going to happen to her, Naruto got Rias to sit right behind him. After she got on, he looked back at her. "Alright then, Rias, hold on nice and tight since the first time is usually the most surprising." Where Rias wondered on what he meant but placed her arms around his waist. Once he knew that Rias had secured herself, he started up his motorcycle and instantly sped up where Rias yelled out in surprise. Namikaze Manor. After riding for a bit, Naruto and Rias arrived at the young blonde's home where Rias looked impressed at the home, especially since it has a lot of room. Putting his bike away, Naruto led Rias to the front entrance where he opened the door. Walking in, Rias could see that this house was definitely one of the nicest and biggest homes she's been to in the human world. "Alright then, let's go to the Oval Office room since it has a couple of books on how to speak in French," Naruto stated where Rias agreed. Leading her to the giant Oval Office, she looked impressed on how many books the room has, 2 stories worth of it. As she gazed upon the room, Naruto looked around for a bit till he found the beginner's book for French speaking in Japanese. "Alright now, come on Rias, let's get to work," smiled Naruto where Rias nodded in agreement. Late afternoon. For the past couple of hours, Naruto and Rias has studied for the past couple of hours where Rias had to admit when it comes to tutoring someone in language, he is pretty good. Taking a break where he made a couple of snacks and drinks for them, they talked a bit more where they talk about whatever. As the sun began to set, Naruto thought it would be a good time to call it a day. Since the sun is starting to set, how about we call it a day? I'm pretty sure your family must be starting to wonder where you are," Naruto stated. "Yes, I believe that would be a good idea. Thank you for helping me, or I should probably say merci de prendre votre temps sur moi tutorial pour préparer. How does language pronounce?" Rias asked. "It's long and you messed up on a few of the words in your sentence which changed the E and U to I and O," Naruto explained where Rias chuckled at her clumsiness. "Guess I'm going to need some more practice after this," Rias remarked as she looked at the Japanese to French book. "Hey, that's why we're practicing, so you can get better. Trust me since I have practiced almost all my life on all the stuff I have achieved," explained the young blonde as the redhead beauty looked at him. "Really, you mind showing me some of your accomplishments?" Rias asked where she was glad that her patience has paid off, even though she admitted to herself that hanging out with Naruto was fun. Naruto led Rias to one of the rooms in the first floor, guiding her through the hallway. Going a bit deeper into the house, Naruto opened the door where he turned on the lights for them to see inside the room. The room was decorated with photos and trophies from different events, athletics/artistic/academic. Walking into the room, Rias had to admit that Naruto has done a lot of things that she has yet to accomplish. Glancing at each picture, she can see that Naruto has been a musician for nearly a decade while the athletic photos showed the same thing. The things that got her interest though was his martial arts/kenjutsu trophies and academic awards. "So what do you think? I have done a lot as a brat," Naruto simply stated with a smirk but smiled sincerely as he looked at few of the photos. "Yes, this is indeed very impressive. I've heard you were a great musician from the other students in Kuo. But I didn't believe you're an artist as well," Rias admittedly as she saw several awards in art. "Thanks, to tell you the truth when I was younger I never had an interest in painting or sketching before he realized something. Actually I don't even know why I started to paint in the first place," muttered Naruto in curiosity. His thoughts stopped when Rias asked him if she can see any of his paintings. Naruto agreed where he decided to show her his private works of that were located on the west side of his home. Leading her upstairs, he took her to his art room where it held his most private works of art. Seeing the paintings and sketches, she had to admit that he was really skilled. She looked to see an amazing landscapes, drawn buildings that used to be around several centuries ago. But the thing that caught her attention on all these paintings is that it was some way painted in a biblical/devil theme, depicting several events or some other kind of it. Her thoughts about Naruto's painting changed as her attention was drawn to a painting in the far center of the room. She walked up towards it where she gazed upon the mystifying piece. Seeing the attractive and mysterious woman made her wonder on who she is. As she gazed on it harder, something in her mind clicked on something. For some strange reason, I feel like I've seen this woman before, but where? Thought Rias as she hardened her stare at it before it was stopped when Naruto called out to her. Rias, are you okay?" Naruto asked. Oh yes, it's just this painting. It really caught my attention. I'm kind of amazed that you do nude painting on anyone before," Rias commented. "Can you tell me on who the model is?" Curiously asked where the blonde shook his head. "No, I can't since this isn't a model I painted but something I drew out from my imagination," Naruto replied. You painted this with your imagination? Rias remarked. Yes, although I feel like I know this person, yet at the same time I haven't met her before. I just figure it must be someone that I spotted while walking around that time or something. But in case, it is one of my more promising picks, don't you think? Naruto said. Yes, but you know, if you ever need a live model, Rias said as she leaned onto Naruto, pressing her bust onto her chest that gave him a good view of her cleavage as the redhead got closer to his ear. You can always ask me? Muttered Rias. Naruto blushed a bit before he changed the subject, where he suggested that he'll drop her off home. Rias said that she can drop her off where he picked her, since someone she knows will come and get her. Getting on his motorcycle, Naruto drove Rias back to the place where he picked Rias up. As he swirled around, Rias held Naruto closely towards her body. As she did, she untied her hands that were latched together just above his waist, where she moved them up, placed them on his chest where his hands felt through his clothing. Naruto blushed a bit at what Rias was doing, feeling his chest with her hands, which made it somewhat difficult for him to pay attention to the road, especially since before her hands he can already feel Rias large behind his back. As the blonde boy continued to drive both him and Rias, the redhead herself wondered something herself. Why did I place my hands on his chest? Why am I hugging him tighter? Although I have to admit that he has a very well-built chest and firm abs. Rias thought as her hands slowly moved around Naruto's chest as she noted down what Naruto's body is like with her mind. As she continued to detail every inch of Naruto's chest, she imagined on what it would be like to see and feel what the rest of his body, where her face had a red blush at imagining it. Getting to the bus stop where he picked her up earlier, Naruto turned to Rias. I had a pretty good time, Rias, Naruto stated. The same with me. Maybe next time we can go somewhere more amusing and hang out, Rias suggested. Yeah, that sounds great. I'd better get going unless you changed your mind on giving you a ride, Naruto said, where Rias waved her head at dismissing the offer again. Alright then, as for now, this is see ya, Naruto remarked in playful pose, where Rias chuckled at the way he said it to her. Her little laughter stopped when she was caught by surprise when Naruto kissed her cheek. He stepped back towards his motorcycle and drove off. Rias stood there as she watched Naruto flee away, where she placed a hand on her cheek, where Naruto kissed her. She stayed until he left her view before turning around and heading towards a private place where she used her magic to teleport herself back to her clubroom. Swerving around the streets and cars, Naruto thought about his time with Rias, which he admitted to himself that he enjoyed. Riding near a park, he suddenly felt a dreadful feeling, a feeling that told him that something was happening inside the park. He decided to check it out, since he was the type to follow his gut where it told him to go inside. Finding a parking area, Naruto went to the park, where he strolled for a bit until he neared the park's fountain. He looked to see that in front of him was Issei and the raven-hair girl that he saw a few days ago on the bridge. From what he can see, both of them were on a date, where he decided to leave them alone since they have the right to privacy. He only walked a bit away before he heard a familiar voice yell out, "OPPI." He went back, since he was raised to be respectful towards women. When he got back to the fountain, he saw Issei laying on the ground with a blue blade through his chest, and in front of the down boy was the raven-hair girl, except she was wearing a bondage-style clothing with a pair of black wings. If you want to blame someone, blame God for giving you a sacred gear, said the raven girl. He ran towards Issei's side to see how badly injured he is. He didn't need a medical degree to know that Issei didn't have much time left, where he looked back at the woman that was in front of them. Why did you? What are you? Naruto questioned, where somewhere deep inside him made him felt like this wasn't the first time meeting such a person. Oh, I'm impressed to see you get through my barrier again. You must have some type of power as well, not to mention you're a lot more handsome than this kid. I kind of wondered on why you couldn't be my target. I would have definitely shown you a good time, but alas, I have to kill you since I can't leave any witnesses, said the Blackwing girl. The raven hair summoned a blade from out of nowhere, where she threw it at Naruto. For Naruto, everything slowed down for him, where he saw a similar situation but with a different person with the same black wings except more pairs. That image disappeared, where he was back at seeing the light blade coming towards him. By instinct alone, he did a reverse high heel kick at the blade's side, making the blade into a saw, sending it back at the girl, where she dodged it at the last second. Before she could figure out on what happened, Naruto was right in front of her, where he did an open palm thrust on her abs, making her crouch down, before doing another reverse high heel kick on her face that sent her flying right into a tree. While the crazed bondage girl was out of the way for the moment, Naruto decided to call in an ambulance. Before he could even dial on his cell, he jumped roll to his right, missing the blade of light that came flying at him, where he looked back to see the winged girl getting back up with her arms stretched out in front of her. Being on guard, he looked between her and Issei, who was barely still holding on. He needed to end this fight fast in order to help the perverted brunette out. He waited to see what the girl would do where he prepared to move. The raven hair glared at Naruto where she summoned another light blade sword and threw it like a flying buzzsaw where she followed it while creating another light blade in her hands ready to stab. Naruto saw the blade coming at him where he ran towards the trees that were behind him. Naruto ran right towards the tree where he ran up to and performed a twisting backflip. The blade stabbed the tree bark while the bondage girl flew at him while he was still in midair. As the girl came at him, thrusting her blade at him. Twisting his body around, Naruto maneuvered his body where he punched the bladed sided with his fist, knocking it away where the girl was thrown off balance, giving him a chance to do another reverse heel kick. The kick hit her face where she hit the ground, while Naruto landed kneeling down on one leg. He quickly turned, moved right towards the girl but was once again distracted when his senses were completely stopped for a moment. In front of him, instead of seeing the young raven-hair girl in front of him, he was seeing a different person standing in front of him. It was a man in his 20s with black hair and golden bangs who was over 6 feet tall. On his back were 12 jet black wings that were fully shown to the world. He wore clothes that belonged to an age over a couple of centuries ago. He stood in front of him, completely injured from bruises, cuts, and other forms of injuries. His mind was so focused on the image that by the time he got his vision back, after a moment, he missed striking the girl where she took advantage and stabbed his side. The girl saw him distracted for a moment where she took the chance. Right now, Naruto was kneeling down first before falling to his uninjured side while he grasped his open wound. The wound was deep where his body then fell flat onto the ground where he lay face up towards the sky. The young raven-hair woman slowly walked up to him. I must say you're very impressive to actually fight me like that. If anything, you could have defeated me if you weren't distracted for the moment. I guess that power I'm sensing from you now only helped you, but it wasn't enough. Too bad, see ya cutie, said the bondage woman where she flew off after blowing him a kiss. It was around this time that Naruto's vision started to blur out where he started to lose feeling around his body. As he started to drift closer to death, he started to remember his family, thinking about how sad his father and mother would be, the thought of not being able to live his life, not being able to get married or have a family of his own. With that, he willed himself to stay awake, forcing his body to obey him to move where he actually started to, slowly, get up. No, I won't go out like this, I have so much more things I have to do. I will live no matter what. Which Naruto mentally said to himself, but his body couldn't rise to his will where he fell again on his side. It wasn't long before a crimson glow came out of nowhere, near both Naruto and Issei's body. Out of the glow, Rias came out where she looked around to see Issei lying in a pool of his own blood. So you were the one who called me, Rias stated before looking around a bit until she saw Naruto lying just a bit of distance. Rias immediately rushed towards his side where she can see that he was barely alive, like Issei. Naruto-kun, don't worry, you won't be leaving my side, Naruto heard where his blurry vision only made him see crimson hair. The redhead held Naruto in her arms while looked at Issei. She gently placed Naruto down where she stated to them, the two of you aren't going to be leaving my side since from now on the both will live for me, Rias said where Naruto just blacked out. Naruto's mindscape. Everything was dark, darker than the darkest night, as Naruto felt like he is in a place where there was nothing. He opened his eyes to see nothing, not even his own hands, as tried to look around. It wasn't till a sudden burst of light cut through the darkness. He was blinded for a second until he regained his vision to see that his entire body was in a stance. He looked directly in front of him before he looked so his side to see that he had stabbed someone he felt like has seen before. He couldn't clearly see his face since his long white hair covered most of it, but could see the blood that he was coughing out of his mouth, dripping down on his body. He felt his hands where he saw that he held a sword in it where it was through his heart. As he looked in shock, the man leaned closer to him where he whispered in a divine, soothing and dying tone directly at his ear. I beg for your forgiveness, I beg for everyone's forgiveness, I had no idea that I failed so many, I had though thought I'd given the people hope and yet I have br brought them pain as well. I'm as sorry that no not just I be but fo for every yon to pl place to be burden onto UFO for that I'm so sorry for the pin way you are feeling I will give you a ss second ch&c for happiness where he put his right hand on his face. I have fai failed you the most s so lowering his face closer to the boy. IFO forgive you where the divine person finally died. Naruto looked in shock on what's happening before everything just brightened up again where he found himself in the darkness once again where in front of him a sword appeared, glowing in awe. He was about to reach for it, where he heard it speak to him. If you grasp this sword, you'll be whole again but forever live in the darkness where the voice of the divine person he saw just now spoke to him. He was starting to freak out and wondered on why he said that he'll be whole again. His thoughts stop as the divine voice continue on. But in so doing, all your past goodness and sins will return when the time has come. If you wish to forget and live in the light, then let it drift away into the darkness. Finished explaining. Naruto didn't know what it meant, but he knew that this sword was something special. He didn't know what the voice was telling him, but he felt like he needed the sword. He felt that this sword is both a gift and a curse. He decided to gamble where he reached for the sword, hesitated for a moment, before grabbing it. Naruto suddenly felt a huge surge of power that he never felt before yet felt so familiar. It was then that he heard the voice one last time. You will once again walk the path of darkness and light chaos, and order you are both past and future, one half of a whole once again be reborn Nexus. With strong tone. Nexus? Muttered Naruto as he blacked out again. Morning. The sun hit the window as light seeped onto Naruto's face. Feeling the light on his face, Naruto tried to ignore the sun's morning glow push through his eyelids. Couldn't fight it any longer, Naruto woke up where he yawned as he stretched himself a bit. Moving his arms around, he noticed something was wrong. When he tried to move around, he felt his right arm being held down by something. Now, his bed was directly opposite to the door and close to the window where the sun would shine on him during the morning. As he tried to pull his right arm out, he felt something soft rubbing against it. He pulled the covers off his bed to reveal something that he normally doesn't see. In front of him was Rias sleeping peacefully right next to him as she held his right arm into her body. For a moment, he gazed on the buxom beauty in front of him before his mind suddenly went blank and something else took her place. Looking down on Rias, his eyes suddenly changed the lovely redhead that laid in bed right next to him into a beautiful silver-haired woman. Even though he couldn't see her face completely because the front part of her hair covered her eyes, he can still see the beauty that woman that laid next to her. Naruto knew who this woman is yet didn't understand on where he met her. He gently moved his left hand towards the beauty where he gently moved some strands of hair out of her face so he can gently touch the beauty's face. It was only here that his eyes refocused themselves where the silver-haired woman disappeared and returned to seeing Rias sleeping next to as he gently caressed her face with his hand. Naruto's action gently stirred Rias from her sleep where she woke up with a yawn. Slowly raising herself up, she stretched her arms up that caused her to bounce a bit. Startled by the action, Naruto moved back a bit where he fell off his bed and landed on his back on the floor. The redhead girl looked over the bed as she heard the fall where she found it humorous. Getting his bearings back, he looked up at Rias where he asked the one simple questions that would come at this moment. Rias! Why are you here? Why are you even in my bed sleeping naked? Questioned his red-headed friend. Rias gently smiled. Well, first of all, I feel constricted wearing clothes in bed, so I like to sleep in the nude where I feel free. Where she leaned closer to him, and reason I'm here is because of what happened last night. Are you alright? After all, you did get pierced in the stomach. Rias asked after she explained on why she was doing in his bed. Naruto remembered on what happened where he placed his hand on his stomach. At first, he thought it was a dream, but with Rias being here he felt that her being here meant that she was telling the truth but still decided to ask the obvious question, as well as one embarrassing one. How did you know that I got pierced in the stomach? As he moved his hand down where it went past his waist. He then felt nothing there where he looked down as he blushed red. And why am I naked? Questioning the girl. Rias looked at her blonde friend as she answered his questions with a straight smiling face. The reason I know about you getting pierced is because I was summoned there by someone else. I explained that part later. But when I tried to save you by resurrecting you, something happened that was unprecedented. You came back to life, but your body wasn't completely healed for some reason. I had no choice but to take you home where I embrace you in the nude in order to help you heal the rest of your injuries. Rias explained while lower her head a bit to see what he looked like completely naked. Looking down at Naruto, Rias' eyes widened a bit in both amusement/stun at seeing on how vast Naruto's pride is, where he was trying to cover himself up. Academy. At the academy gate, many students walk into the academy field, heading towards the school building. As many continued to walk into the academy grounds, some stopped suddenly, mostly the female students, as they heard the familiar sounds of a motorcycle coming towards them. After a bit, many looked forward to see only the women, Naruto walking towards the academy. Of course, this only lasted for a moment where they saw walking with him was the number one beauty, Rias Gremory, right by his side. Everyone at the front gate looked surprised/stunned about the situation. Many knew that Naruto was friendly with the two idols in the academy, Rias Gremory and Akeno Himejima, also known as the two great ladies. But for the two who were walking into the gate together like this, many ideas and thoughts began to go through them such as, are they dating? Did Rias Onisama ride on Naruto-kun's bike? Or such things. Going into the academy, Naruto thought about what happened this morning after the awkward wake-up. Flashback. Seeing Rias looking down at him, She could see that he was looking at his important part, where he immediately turned around to not just let her see his most important body part, but also give Rias some privacy since she was naked in front of him. Controlling his emotions, he spoke up to Rias while avoiding eye contact. "Ano, I really don't understand on what's happening. But for some reason I should trust on what you're saying, so, if you did save me life, then thank you," Naruto gratefully said. Rias shook her mind out of her imagination where she listened to what Naruto said, which she responded, "It's not a problem. Also, you don't have to turn around for me. I'm alright if you want to see me naked," she stated before getting of Naruto's bed, pressing her impressive on his back. "In fact, I prefer it was you to see me naked," muttered the last part onto his ear. Naruto blushed at feeling her breathing next to his ear. Naruto shook his head a bit, before turning his head to look at her face. "So what happens now?" The young redhead smiled at the blonde teenager. "Now, well, get ready for school since today is Monday. Not only that, I need to introduce you to the rest of peerage since you're now a part of," said Rias. "Part of?" confusedly asked. "That's right. You're now part of my peerage. This means that I'm your master from now on. Please take care of me, Namake's Naruto-kun," Rias stated with a smile. End flashback. After the awkwardness, Naruto and Rias got dressed for another academy day. Things were a little confusing for Naruto, so he cancelled his normal routine so that he can have the day to think for himself. Having a light breakfast, which he also offered Rias, they both got ready for the academy, where he took Rias to the academy on the back of his motorcycle. Walking into the main hallway, Rias looked back at Naruto. "I'll see you in a little bit, Naruto-kun. I have to go and meet up with someone right now. Get someone to pick you up later," Rias said as she walked away in a different route. Naruto decided to head towards class. Standing next to the hand railing, the student council president gazed down from the top floor of the new school building towards Naruto, since she was intrigued with him just as much as Rias, where she can't help but think on how lucky she was. After school, Naruto sat inside his classroom where he waited for Rias to pick him up. Even though they were in the same classroom, today Rias had to leave class a little earlier because of something. Now he was just waiting for her to come pick him up. While he sat there, he can't but wonder about some things. During lunch, he ate his lunch pretty quickly before going on a walk. Walking for him gave him a sense of calm since it helped clear his mind. As he walked around the school where he focused on this morning's awkwardness. But it was during his walk that he suddenly realized on something about certain individuals. Walking around, he saw his fellow male idol in the school, Kiba Yudo, walking away from some girls who were trying to get his affection. Seeing Kiba like this wasn't anything strange since he had a few girls do the same thing, but that wasn't what got his attention. The way he walked, the way he moved, the way he felt. Naruto couldn't help but sense that Kiba was exactly like Rias. Naruto walked away where he found several more individuals, such as the members of the student council room, Rias' best friend, Akeno, the school's lowly mascot Kaneko Tuju, and a few others in the school that he doesn't really know or had heard about. His thoughts stopped when he felt someone coming towards him, where he sensed who it was from seeing them earlier. "Hey Akeno-san, so you're here to pick me up?" Naruto asked without looking back towards him. Being a bit surprised, the black-haired buxom beauty politely replied, "Hi, Bucho asked me to come get you," with a cheerful tone. With that, Naruto followed Akeno out of the classroom, where the blonde teenager couldn't help but wonder on what Rias was going to talk to him about. As the two walked together, many of their peers looked pleased, female only, at seeing the lovely sight in front of their eyes, as they can't help but blush and giggle for seeing one of the great ladies walking with one of the two most handsome men in the academy. The male students groaned out of jealousy or rage from seeing this sight, since Naruto was the only known male, besides Kiba, to be close with the two great ladies. Walking outside the new school building, they made their way near the old school building that was located nearby. As they walked towards their location, Akeno secretly took a couple of glances at the spiky blonde-haired teenage boy. She thought about what Rias said to her about Naruto, and what happened with Naruto. Flashback. Waiting inside the clubroom, Akeno waited for her king to arrive this morning to find out on what to happen after last night. Last night, Rias contacted her to help her take care of one of her two new servants. When she arrived at the scene, she saw Rias resurrect both Issei and Naruto. When she saw Naruto on the ground, she immediately came to his side since there was something wrong. Reviving Issei was simple, but Naruto was another problem entirely. When reviving the blonde, the evil piece successfully turned him into a devil, yet his wound was still open. Even with the evil piece transforming his body into a devil, Naruto's life was still threatened, so Rias decided to stay with Naruto for the night to help heal him, while Akeno would take Issei back to his home to rest. After assuring that Issei was okay in his room, Akeno went back to her home where she slept. Now she was waiting for Rias to come, in which she didn't have to wait long. Coming inside the clubroom, Rias greeted her queen a good morning, where she did the same. Once welcoming each other, Akeno asked about what happened to Naruto since, like Rias, has taken a liking to her friend. Naruto-kun is okay. It took most of the night, but his wounds are completely healed, which is very surprising to me, Rias stated. Oh, is that so? Personally, what's really surprising is that you got 2 new members now instead, since I thought you were only going to get Issei for now, Akeno stated. Yes, that was the plan, but it couldn't be helped if Naruto was already in this situation, so I took the chance and took him in, Rias admittedly said. So, what pieces are they? Akeno curiously asked. Rias explained that she turned Issei into her only pawn since Issei's cost to revive him was a lot. This brought the question on what piece Naruto is. This is where it gets interesting. Naruto, I don't really know on what piece Naruto-kun really is, Rias stated. Akeno looked confused since she knew that aside from the rest of her king's peerage, Rias has 1 bishop, rook, and knight piece left, which she would have to use 1 in order to revive Naruto. I didn't use any of my pieces. Instead, I used the 1 piece that Oniai-sama gave me a few years ago, the 1 special piece, Rias stated, where Akeno remembered the piece that her king was talking about. Flashback further back. Inside the home of Rias' older brother, the young redhead who was starting junior high school went towards her brother's office with Akeno closely following her. Walking into the office, glanced at the sight in front of her. Sitting in an office chair behind a desk with an assistant standing by his side. The person in front of her was a handsome, young male in his early 20s with shoulder-length crimson-red hair and blue-green eyes, similar to Rias while having a well-toned figure. The person is Sir's Lucifer, who is the leader of the 4 great Satans. His assistant is a beautiful woman appearing to be in her early 20s with silver hair and matching eyes. Her hair, which flows all the way down to her back, features a long braid on each side with small blue bows at the ends, while the rest is let down, ending in twin braids. She is wearing a blue and white French-made outfit with long sleeves and a white-made headband over her head, with a dash of red lipstick on his lips. She was Graphia Lucifuge, Sir's ex-queen and wife. Normally, the leader of the devils would sit in his throne room with his queen by his side, but today was just one of the few days that he does paperwork in his home. As he was finishing up his paperwork, Sir's ex looked up to see his little sister, where he immediately do what he usually does when he met her. Ria-tan. Where he quickly got to Rias, where he gave her a huge hug. Rias tried to get him off her but couldn't. Akeno giggled at seeing this since she was used to this type of humorous situation. The hugging stopped when the silver-haired woman came up behind them, where she pulled on her king's ear. Sir's ex-sama, please show some restraint, Graphia calmly said. After a bit of pulling, Sir's ex let go of his sister, where he then acted normally in front of them. Once the moment calmed down, Sir's ex asked his little sister on why she was here. Rias explained that she came here since he was going to take her to meet Ajuka to get her evil piece set, since it was time. Sir's ex remembered it, where he was glad to explain that he was finishing up today's work, where he and his wife will take them. Alright, just give me a few more minutes and we'll be ready to go, Sir's ex replied. Rias and Akeno agreed, where they decided to wait in the room for him to finish. Graphia offered the 2 a cup of tea, where they declined the offer. Rias decided to look around the office bookshelf while Akeno looked at the pictures that hang around. Looking at the bookshelf, she found a book next to a jewelry case that caught her interest, where she pulled it out of the shelf. With the book being pulled out, she accidentally knocked the jewelry case to the floor, where the contents spilled out. I'm sorry, Rias said as she went to pick up the case as well as the contents. She picked up the single content, which was a strange king chess piece. Unlike regular king pieces, this king piece not only has features like any other king, but on certain parts around it has a depiction of the queen, bishop, knight, rook, and pawn pieces on it. The only truly significant first look of it was that on the back of the piece was the pair of angel-like and devil wings, having blue coloring around the body with golden traits around the arms, legs and chest. Oniai-sama, what this piece? Curiously asking her older brother. Sir's ex and Graphia turned to look at the young redhead girl, where they saw the piece she was holding. Sir's ex widened his eyes a bit while Graphia kept her monotone look. Putting away the last of the paperwork, he moved towards her, where he seized the piece away from her so he can explain on what this piece was. Rias, Akeno, this is a very special evil piece. This is in fact the very first evil piece that Ajuka created near the end of the Great War in the underworld, Sir's ex stated. Both young girls looked surprised to see such an artifact in front of them. Of course, it also brought some questions because of what the owner of Lucifer title said. Excuse me, Sir's ex-sama, but you said that this is the very first evil piece that was created during the war. If I recall correctly, the evil peace system wasn't created until after the war and when you and the other 4 great Satans were given your titles. Akeno explained. You are correct about that, Akeno-san. But this was a very special piece, a piece that was going to serve for one special purpose. Unfortunately, it was never been applied where Ajuko-sama gave the piece to Surzek-sama for safekeeping. Grafia said to the young girls. Really? What happened? Rias asked since both she and Akeno were wondering on what the piece was going to be used for. I'll tell you another time. But for now, this piece no longer has any value since the war ended. Since this piece is mostly worthless now, how about I give this to you? This piece was created to be used and I don't have any intention on using it. But I believe you might find it handy one day. Surzek muttered out where he handed the piece to Rias. Rias was surprised to be given such an important artifact and wondered if it was going to be alright. Surzek stated that it would cool, but explained to her that she'll need to put a drop of her blood on it so it would work for her, which was another reason it was special. The first evil piece in existence had the blood of not only Surzek's but also the other 3 great Satans, which would need to be cleansed off before she can use it. When explanation was done, she thanked her older brother where she decided to try out when she found the right person to give it to. She thought about using it on Akeno, but she was going to make the young raven hair girl as her queen. Surzek suggests to head out now after they say their goodbye to his son first. As they left the office, Surzek noticed that Grafia was the last to come out. He saw her staring at the jewelry case, which he can understand. The case that held the evil piece was one of 2 reminders to Grafia about the past. The other reminder always hanged around her neck, under her clothes. End deep flashback. Did you really use such an important piece on Naruto-kun? Wouldn't it be better if you used one of your other pieces? Questioning the young king. I tried, however. When I went in closer, I saw that the cost was really great. Only my 8 pawn pieces would have had a chance to resurrect him, but it still wasn't enough. It was only then that I remembered that special piece which was the perfect cost for him. Answered the redhead as Akeno quietly took everything what Rias said. End flashback. Walking into the old schoolhouse, Naruto followed Akeno up the stairs till they reach a certain floor. Making her way towards the clubroom, Akeno led Naruto into the room while taking one more hidden glance at him. Inside the building, Naruto spotted 3 more individuals. Inside, he saw Kaneko, Kiba, and Issei. The first 2 he knew because of what he heard from the other students. The last one he knew as well, but whose reputation was more infamous than famous. Ah, you just made it. And you also brought Naruto-san as well. I and Issei-san have also just arrived too. The second male idol of the school said. That's good to hear. Where's Bucho? Akeno asked her junior classmate. Kiba pointed at the shower room that was located at the corner of the room. There, both Naruto and Issei heard the sound of water falling in the shower. They looked to see an outline of a woman's body, which they guessed that it was Rias. Naruto turned his face to give Rias privacy but saw Issei ogling at the Rias's body form until he was slapped back on the head courtesy by Naruto's hand.